What's up, family? We in the building. All right, so you guys, welcome to the very first Teachers for Good Trouble virtual summit. So I would like to just introduce my co-host for the night. Y'all know him as the insightful teacher. I know him as the articulate, you know what I'm saying, wordsmith, the God with the words, you know what I mean, the verbiage. My boy Rakim. What up, boy?
What's good, man? How you doing?
How you feeling?
I'm doing good, bro.
We can't hear you, man. I don't know. I don't have you. Want to make sure we got you good on the audio. For those of you guys just tapping in, do me a favor, yo. I'm gonna encourage you guys to just share this thing to everybody. Share it out. You can send them the link directly to YouTube. They'll be able to tap right in. You can send them a link to Eventbrite if you will. But just let's get everybody here and let's get this thing started. Rock, they said we good, man. Let's rock.
Yeah, they said we good. I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. Welcome to the Teachers for Good Trouble virtual summit. So pretty much we are all here. We demand, just in our vision, we demand freedom from standardized testing. We are educators focused on reforming schools to build safe, nurturing, and justice-driven school communities by eliminating standardized testing as a tool to measure performance during a pandemic. So that's why we're here, and that's why we all come here to make good trouble.
Word up. This has been a very, very powerful, 3-4 weeks that we've been coming together to really organize this thing. But I just want to first just start off by telling you how much I appreciate you, man. Like you have given this so much purpose, and I'm just so happy to have a kindred spirit, man, in this movement, man. So I just want to say thank you, man.
You're a winner.
I guess, I think one of the things that we do want to recognize is, look, we've had over 1 million young people contract COVID, since school started and then into October. We have lost 37 educators to COVID, right, who have passed away. And I would just like for us to have a brief moment of silence in respect to the lives lost in our battle against this COVID-19 pandemic. And especially those who are lost in schools as learners and as educators. Let's take that moment right now. Ashe. Rock, what would you say is your why? Like, what's the thing that really got you encouraged to get mobilized and activated in this movement?
Well, I believe that this is our ancestors' dream, right? To freedom dream, right? Most of the time we look at the struggles that are going on, but I believe that my ancestors, they always believed in the future, right? That we were not just doing this just for the now, right? But the folks who came after us, right? So each person is like a seed. And I believe that I'm that seed and we are that seed to that liberatory seed to make us grow. So I think when I think of my students, I do teach history, but I tell folks I teach life, right? And my students deserve a life uninhibited by standardized testing and just really opportunities, right? Opportunities to where we're not standardizing the standardized test, standardizes administration, that standardizes students, that standardizes our future and our imagination. So for me, I'm all about liberation and moving us forward. So I'm really here to do the good work.
I think there's a, sometimes I think people don't really understand like why standardized testing was even created in the first place. And I think it's key for people to understand that, because when we say things like, yo, standardized testing is racist, people go, why? Like, what do you mean by that, right? And I think what's important is for folks to understand that, like, this is something that was created by the United States military in 1923, right? By Gibson, right? And they created this as a device to prevent certain black officers in the military from reaching certain ranks and status in the game, right? So that ended up becoming the SAT. The same people who crafted the alpha beta test for the military are the same individuals that created the SAT, right? And the SAT was used as a blueprint for all standardized testing that would come to follow. It had always been used to deem black individuals specifically as inferior to others. And so when we talk about that, you know, how does that resonate with you, and why do you think it's important for people to really understand that as we take on this fight?
I believe that we're correcting a historical wrong, right? If the foundation of the system is based on racism, capitalism, white supremacy, if that's the foundation, then everything that it stands upon, right, it's corrupt, right? So what we need to do is really, we're trying to set the record straight. And I think it's important to set that foundation and set it straight, because then, therefore, if you fix the foundation, then everyone who's in the house gets to live freely and gets to be their authentic self.
100%. And I think with that said, it's kind of like, all right, well, what do we do about it, right? Like, you know, I think in education, especially as teachers, we kind of understand that there's like a pyramid structure to this thing, right? You got the teachers, and you got the students and the parents, and then you got like the school boards and the administrators, and like everybody's kind of above us, and we at many times feel as if, you know, we can't do anything about it. Well, what is our call to action here at Teachers for Good Trouble, and what are we asking people to do in order to get activated and do something about this?
Well, there's a couple of things, right? December 15th, right? We're asking for a day without teachers, right? And for everyone to show up at their local rallies, right? And I think December 15th is so important because December 15th, 1791, the United States of America, they ratified the Bill of Rights, right? And if you think about it, those amendments that was in the Bill of Rights, they wouldn't ratify it without it. When we think of the First Amendment, it guarantees freedom of speech, freedom of rights, peaceful assembly, and the right to petition. That things are wrong. So we're really taking back our constitutional power in terms of the 3.7 million teachers and everyone in the world, right? And activists and allies and co-conspirators, right? We're saying that this is the day that we move our nation a little bit forward to its founding principles. So we need everyone to show up to those rallies, December 15, 2020, so we can move us forward.
Exactly. And especially, listen, we got a couple of the rallies that are already up on Eventbrite right now. All right. If you live in New York or DC, you can go in Eventbrite right now. If you live in Atlanta, you can go in Eventbrite right now. And all these links are right there on our website. And we have some cities to come. Like, they are coming right away, very soon. Okay. So you'll be seeing Houston come on board soon, Washington, D.C., Detroit, Chicago, Miami. You'll see a couple more cities ready to go and get activated. Y'all, this is very important. Because in effort for us to fight for this and advocate for even the use of our First Amendment voice, right? The right to petition, the right to protest, right? I live in Georgia, and as an educator, we don't have the right to do this. So those who are fighting this fight in states like mine that are right to work states, we are literally risking our livelihood in order to do this work. But I think the most American thing that we can do is protest or advocate for ourselves, even in the midst of when the government says you should not. I think there's power in that. With that said, I want to go ahead and bring on a very, very dynamic speaker, man. Rock, I remember when I first talked to you and I was like, we about to bring in my guy. You know what I'm saying? Oh, wait a minute. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So we got my brother, Mr. Jeremy Anderson, stepping into the building right now. If y'all have never heard this king speak before, y'all just need to get ready. I had the opportunity to see him speak to my entire school district. I walked up out of that thing ready to just throw books. You know what I'm saying? I was ready to go get it. He had me motivated. And I felt like it was only appropriate that we bring him aboard to just give educators a word as we get ready to engage in this work. So Jeremy, thank you for being here. Welcome, King. Welcome, King. Welcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you all, for having me. Shivy, bro, whatever you do, you call me and I'm there. I know your heart is for people. Your heart is for those who are oppressed. Your heart is for educators and kids and advocating for them. So I feel humbled to be a part. For those of y'all that don't know me, my name is Jeremy Anderson. I'm an educational consultant. I have not had the privilege of being in the classroom day to day like you all are, but I was on the other side as a student that struggled and had a ton of challenges, right? And so I've been privileged today to work with schools across America and abroad, working with students and very closely with teachers, showing them how to connect with the hearts and minds of people, showing them how to move the hearts and minds and really connect with those students who are struggling. And so I've been privileged to do this. I've had hundreds of teachers over the years email me, reach out to me, and guess what? Just like all of you all watching, they tired. They tired, they're fed up, they're frustrated. I've had an overwhelming outcry of educators that I've been privileged to serve alongside over the past 11 years reach out to me and say, Jeremy, can you believe after all of this, we're going back into the building? After all of this, we got standardized testing. And I've been watching it and I'm like, okay, this is different. Because when the pandemic first hit around March, when the country shut down and things got weird, it's like everybody was singing praises like, oh, teachers are essential. Teachers are amazing. And like all the parents like me is like, hey, when you gonna come get your kids? You feel me? Like it was that type of energy. Everybody was singing their praises. All the politicians was like, we now see why teachers should get raises. Like everybody was talking that good talk. And then the summertime came and it died down. Then August came. And it was like, all right, well, get back to school. Like, we're going to figure this thing out virtually. Like, it was just a mess. And so, there are people that want to be in and some people want to be virtual. Like, all of that's crazy enough. The pandemic is crazy enough. But the fact that we about to have standardized testing, like, that's a problem. I'm not even going to get into how racist the standardized testing can be and how skewed it can be and how that has nothing to do with the intellect, the depth, the knowledge, the genius within our precious students. Like, I'm not even going to talk about that. Let's just talk about how while we're in the fight for our life, we now are in a position to where we have to do the standardized testing. Like, that's a problem. So I just wanted to talk to you all about the importance of us being unified, right? Us being able to use our spirit influence, us being able to use our connections, us being able to tap into our resources, and us just being able to use our voices. There's a whole lot of chatter. There's a little bit of excitement and a little fear about the vaccine. Some people's like, well, if we get the vaccine, maybe we'll open back up. Some people's like, I ain't fooling with that vaccine. I don't want to talk about the vaccine that Pfizer is giving. I'm talking about the vaccine of your voice. The vaccine of your voice, like that has the power to bring about healing. That has the power to bring about, change. That has the power to bring about a system that's going to be able to be broken and some things be able to shift. The power of your voice. The vaccine of your voice has power. So how do we use our power now? How do we use the vaccine of our voice? How do we use our voice to bring about change? We got to speak up. On December 15th, I need you to show up. Whether you in Philly, whether you in DC, whether you in New York, whether you in Houston, whether you in Cali, whether you in Georgia, like wherever you are, there will be demonstrations all over the country. It's time to show up. It's time to use our social media to say, okay, how can I post this? How can I retag it? How can I tag some friends? How can I tag some teachers? How can I get them to post it? Like, do whatever it is you got to do to spread the word and let them know on December 15th, you finna call a sick day. We finna sick out because we sick and tired of being without the support. We finna sick out because we sick and tired of having the help we need. We finna sick out because we sick and tired of being forced to do this standardized testing in the midst of the pandemic. People is out here fighting for their life. One of my homeboys that y'all gonna meet soon, he might be able to come to the state capitol when we talk. My man got COVID twice in the classroom. Twice. This is a problem. And we gotta be able to do something about it. And what are we going to do about it? We're going to use our feet. We're going to make signs. We're going to stand. We're going to march. We're going to protest. But most importantly, we're going to use our voice because that has the power. The vial of that voice, that vaccine has the power to bring about a shift. So I challenge you right now. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be comfortable. You're going to have some conversations. You're going to get some pushback. You might even have people within your school and your district tell you to be quiet. Maybe you should tone it down some, and then you're going to have a choice. Like, are you going to continue to be oppressed? Are you going to continue to have them push you aside? Are you going to continue to have them silence you? Or are you going to say, no, 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 let me lift up my voice and sing till earth and heaven ring? Like, I'm not going to let them quiet me. I'm not going to let them push me aside. I'm not going to let them keep me stagnant. I'm not going to have them ostracize me. I will use my voice. My voice is the vaccine that's going to bring about some healing. My voice is going to advocate for these kids who deserve a better chance. My voice is going to put me and my colleagues in a better position. You already not getting paid nowhere near your worth. The least they can do is to value our voices. The least they can do is respect us. The least that they can do is to give us a fighting chance out here. The least they can do is not continue to put us in harm way for what? We already know that when the tests come out and the research comes out and the data comes out, it's going to be the next year. Them kids not going to be even in our classroom. You know what we could do with $1.8 billion? You know what we could do with that? Bonuses for you who's showing up and showing out. American heroes. When I look at you all and I look at the work that you're doing, the sacrifice that you make in American heroes, y'all something different. I'm looking at y'all like the folks out here in John Hopkins Hospital. They will leave the hospital and join Doctors Without Borders. American heroes. Imagine that. You're so amazing. You're so powerful. You're so strong. You're so savvy. You different. Oh, you got to drip inside your heart. You got to drip inside your spirit, American heroes. Do you know that the doctors that will go to Doctors Without Borders, they will leave the prestige of Johns Hopkins University and will go to Kuwait. They'll go to Afghanistan. They'll go to Syria in the middle of a war zone and still give health care, still bring aid, still serve, still protect, still performing surgeries. They hide at any moment. Somebody could come in with a suicide vest. The situation is the environment is very uncontrolled and uncomfortable, but they like, man, I got a mission. So I'm going to be as excellent, as amazing as I am in this prestigious hospital, or I'm going to be as excellent, as amazing as I'm going to be in this hut out in the middle of the Middle East. You know what I'm saying? American heroes, like, you different. You different. They signed up for it. They like, yo, I'm so powerful. My power cannot be contained. I will not allow for the pain of the situation to stop me from fulfilling my purpose. American heroes, you different. Because in the midst of adversity, you keep standing up. In the midst of adversity, you keep showing out. In the midst of all the pain and everything that's going on in the world, you still show up every single day. That's different. American heroes. I talked to my homeboy Tyson. I said, bro, but you still at school? I'm thinking like he finna be like, yo, Jay, I got COVID. And so what I'm gonna have to do, man, I'm gonna probably go find another occupation. He like, nah, I'll be at school tomorrow. I'm like, but bro, you was already in the hospital for some other health issues he had. Then you get out of the hospital, you better, and you hit me up, I'm praying for you. You good, you go back and get COVID. Then you home quarantining, you get better, you out the hospital, you go back and get COVID again. And he's still showing up at these schools with a whole bunch of kids with no mask in the class. American hero. This thing different, but we're going to have to make them value us. We're going to have to make them honor us. We're going to have to make our voices be heard. American heroes. Now, I know what some of y'all thinking. You're thinking like, yo, Jay, I didn't sign up for masks in the class. I didn't sign up for the pandemic. I didn't sign up for virtual learning. I definitely didn't sign up to be out here protesting and marching. I get it, but let me tell you about the late, great Representative John Lewis. He didn't sign up to get his skull fractured. He didn't sign up to get beat. He didn't sign up to get put in the hospital. He didn't sign up to get arrested over 40 times. American heroes. My man was just like, yo, this is what comes with it. He signed up for justice. He signed up for equality. He signed up for love. He signed up for unity. American hero. The same with you. You was probably thinking like, man, I got into education because I like to teach and I like to have the light bulb go off. But like, this is something different here. I get it. I get it. But because you keep showing up and because you keep standing up, man, you something different. You rare. So I want to just empower you real quick. You are already powerful. You are already essential to the fabric of our country. Do you realize that? I was talking to somebody around like July, August, when the pandemic was like real crazy. They was like, yeah, you know, essential workers, man, shout out to them, doctors and engineers, and doctors and nurses and firemen, police officers. I was like, okay, and they was like, paramedics. I'm like, and? I was like, bro, teachers. He was like, yeah, but I'm talking about those who put their life on the line. I'm like, bro, teachers. Y'all are essential. You all are essential to the very fabric of our country. You all have the responsibility to shape the hearts and minds of this next generation. And while we push our lesson plan, I know in your classroom you push character and you push principles. And now is the time that we stand up on our character. Now is the time that we stand up on our principles. Now is the time that we give this country a dose of the vaccine. And I'm talking about the vaccine of our voice. When you use your voice, when you speak life, when you empower one another, when you support one another, when you stand up and march alongside one another, like things gonna begin to shift. It's gonna be a rattle. It's gonna be a shaking. That thing gonna start shifting. Soon we gonna get some press conference. I need y'all posting about the rally. I need y'all tagging CNN and MSNBC and Fox News. I need y'all tagging all the different news stations. I need y'all spreading the word, tagging the New York Times, tagging the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Like I need you tagging all these different places. We gotta make sure that the world knows what's happening here. We gotta let them know that we are unified, that we connected, and this is just the beginning. This teaches for good trouble, this cause, this movement here. Oh, this is just the beginning. But this is an opportunity now for us to get connected. This is an opportunity now for us to mobilize. This is an opportunity now to show the world not just how powerful and amazing we can be in the classroom, but we get that phone and we start tweeting and we start posting and we start tagging and we start spreading the word. And then on the 15th, when we stand united together, that's something different. That's something different. We need you there. Now, we don't get nothing extra like for doing this, but we are here advocating for you because this is not right and you've been dealing with enough. And you're talking about standardized testing during the pandemic. Okay, you've gone too far. So now we're going to speak up. Now we're going to stand up. And now we're going to say something about it. And this will be the very catalyst that will give us an opportunity to bring about some serious shifts. But this first one, December 15th, it's going to hit different. And I can't wait to see the coverage in the different states, in the different cities, and letting the folks know we're not playing, we're here to stay. There's something special going on in this place. And it's only going to be possible by you. The opposition and the enemy wants us divided. He does not want us united. But I believe that when we stay united in purpose, when I believe we stay focused, when I believe we stay laser sharp focused on the mission at hand, and we do whatever we have to do to move it forward, I believe that's how we're going to be able to bring about a shift. And that's how we're going to be able to bring about the help. And that's how we're going to be able to bring about a change within this. You have what it takes. You do it every single day. Like y'all, what y'all do when y'all step into the classroom or when you log in online, like that's something special. But now is an opportunity for us to come together and mobilize to make a difference out here in the world. I view you all like heroes. What you do day in and day out is nothing short of you being a hero. And you all are literally putting your life on the line. But now we have an opportunity. Now we have an opportunity to do something greater on a national level. Now we have an opportunity to let our voices be heard. Now we have an opportunity to fight back and say, nope, we're not doing the standardized test. Something has to change. This is not the right time for this here. And it shouldn't even been here in the first place. This is how we fight some of the systemic oppression, some of the racism, some of the things that's been plaguing our country for a very long time. This is an opportunity for us to come together and us to be united to let our voices be heard. Yeah, so it's time we get in some trouble. But I'm talking about not just any trouble. We're going to get in some good trouble. So that's my time. Man, God bless you all on this journey. I'll be on the sideline rooting you on. And when you tag me in, I promise you, boom, I'm coming in. And I'm coming in guns a-blazing because I believe in what you all are standing for. So that's my time. Thank you all for having me on tonight. Yeah, and I look forward to seeing y'all real soon. Let's get it.
Yo, my G. Yo, Jeremy, bro.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, man. I've heard you speak many times, man, and that message right there, bro, just hit me in a whole different way. And I'm hoping that our educators, our teacher family, like are really receiving that and feeling that. I'm gonna tell y'all now. Look, if you're not following the King Jeremy Anderson, I need y'all to go ahead and hit him up at Jeremy Anderson. You see his ad on the screen right now. You know, I just really wanted to ask you personally, man, what is the thing that got you to really kind of jump off the porch and feel a need to make your voice be present in this movement?
Yeah, so for years, as I've been traveling and speaking, I've been advocating for teachers and I've been working with them and having meetings with school boards, and I'll be feeling like out of place, like I'm like y'all kind of brought me in, like y'all got these relationships, but they like, you got a voice, can you know what I'm saying? And I'm constantly like, you know what I'm saying, trying to help them go to that next level. Like my heart is for educators, bro. Like I went to 3 different schools for the 9th grade. Like I know how to fail. And I came across a group of teachers just like y'all and everybody that's on with us that captured my heart. And so when I see today, 20 years later, like ain't nothing changed, I ain't gonna front, bro. I be feeling a certain type of way. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know how some speakers be like, I got love for teachers and you're awesome. Like, no, I put my money where my mouth is. Last year, we gave away 10 cruise vacations. We sent a bunch of educators like limo, 2 round trip flights, and sent them on an all expense vacation just to say thank you. Right. And so it comes from a pure place, brother. And so when I saw this, I was like, yo, this is an opportunity here. Because I'm always hearing about we're not paid what we deserve and all of these different things. But I'm like, okay, standardized testing? Like, nah, that's not it. And brother, I've been rocking with you for a minute and what you stand for in your heart. And so when you call me, I'm like, how else can I serve? And so that's why I'm all in, brother.
Rock, do you have any question for Jeremy before we move on to the next thing, man? Because I just want to make sure, like, because Rock, when I told Rock that you was gonna be here, Rock was like, yo, he like top 5 dead or alive when it comes to the speaker game. So
that's love, man.
I wanted to make sure I made y'all got that connection because like truth is, man, you inspire a lot of educators, man, and we all like appreciate the opportunity to tap in with you.
Absolutely. Jeremy,
thank you. I know your story because I've heard you speak it like 100 times, right? Is there like a pivotal moment in your life where it's like, this is the shift for me, right? Like this is the thing that I knew I was called to do this work.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna tell you, man, I believe that, and I've said this before, and so maybe some of you all might be familiar with it, but I don't believe that teachers, like, I don't believe that's just an occupation. I don't think that's just a career. Like, that's a calling, that you got to answer that call that's been placed on your life to do the work that you all do. You got to be called to do this work and a little crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, they finna see how crazy we can be on December 15th. You know what I'm saying? But like, you got to be called and a little crazy to do this work. And so what shifted it for me was, you know what I'm saying, when I got to a certain point and I knew that I could change a life, like everything for me shifted. I was at this one little school, man, and it was this little girl, red hair and freckles. She told me after the speech she had planned on committing suicide. But I came to her school and now she want to win. And Rock, man, that like messed my head up. I'm like, you mean to tell me if I stayed on the porch, if I stay safe, if I stay comfortable, I wouldn't have been here? And this lady at my church was like, can you come to my school and volunteer and speak? I'm like, sure. I went there and rocked the mic to see that I saved her life. I went and told my wife, I was like, yo, I'm quitting my job. I'm going all in. And she's so crazy. She's like, well, I'm quitting my job too. You ain't gonna have all the fun. We gonna figure this thing out. And so we went like 10 toes in and fully gave ourselves for that shift. And that's why I'm so passionate about educators making sure that they show up on the 15th. Because we can feel rah-rah, but it takes everything, man. Like, I am where I am in life as a career and as the work that we do because we really fully gave ourselves everything. Like, curriculums, like everything that we do is pushing education. Like, you got to be willing to give your all to it. And that's why I'm pleading with you all that's watching live with us. Like, man, go on to at Teachers for Good Trouble, like following them and tagging them and every single thing that they post, like share that thing. Like, we got to make this thing go broad. We got to make this thing go wild. We got to make this thing go viral. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to be willing to get the news of CNN. And so for me, man, I just had to fully give myself to it. And I believe that when we come together, you know what I'm saying? And we fully give ourselves and we behind this thing and we post it and we share it, it's going to just explode from there and get even bigger. And then our voices will be heard. Yeah.
And it's going to take for all of us to come together. Let's be very clear, man. Talking about teachers, talking about education is not the sexiest thing for the news, man. You know, we live in a day and age where if it bleeds, it leads. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I know we got to move on, but I really want to hit on that because that's so important. We've reached out to a lot of different news outlets, right? We've reached out to a lot of different newspapers, and a lot of them don't want to give us the time of day to really talk about this issue because it's not attractive enough. You know what I'm saying? They'll listen to some parents, you know what I'm saying, that want to talk about schools reopening, but they won't listen to the voice of the teachers that are basically saying, yo, I don't want to die to do this job. We've risked dying when we had to deal with mass shootings in that pandemic throughout education. Now we got to deal with a viral pandemic, an airborne pandemic, right? And they don't want to hear from the teachers. Right? They just want us to be complacent and they want us to be complicit. And the time for that is over, man. Teachers are organizing together across racial lines, across gender lines, across sexual identity lines, across political lines. Like, we are coming together over all of that stuff to take a stand. And that's why this movement is so important. I'm so encouraged by you all. And I just need us all to be reaching out to these news outlets, reaching out to our radio stations, posting it, sharing it, getting it out there, reaching out to our unions. We have an opportunity right now to do a thing, and I think right now is the time for us to actually make it come to fruition. So thank you very much, Jeremy, for tapping in with us, my brother. I will be getting with you soon.
Let's
go.
Absolutely.
All right, so next up, man, we are going to bring up a friend of mine coming all the way from Florida, okay, whose baby is having to deal with the effects of what this pandemic is doing. And I think we'd be remiss not to have input of the young people, the students, the individuals that we're fighting for. So we're gonna welcome up to the stage my sister, Miss Matea Ashley.
Hey.
What up? Look at my man. What up, King? Hey.
How you doing?
My name is John, and I'm in second grade. And if all you see are my test scores, you will miss.
My ability in the classroom: brilliant, driven, ambitious, caring, happy, helpful, hardworking, responsible, and innovative. How does testing make you feel, John?
It makes me feel nervous sometimes because when my teacher says we have like 5 minutes or 15 minutes, it makes me nervous, like I won't finish the test.
Do you ever
Go ahead.
Do you think that you can prove how smart you are without a test?
Yes, sir.
What do you want those people who are making us test students to know? What would you want for them to do about testing?
Like I'm more than a test score.
Wow.
Come on, man.
You are more than a test score. You're brilliant.
Yo, little brother, I'm so proud of you, man. Thank you so much for using your voice, little brother.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much for using your voice, man. Yo.
Silent position.
Let's go. Sign the petition, people. Sign the petition. Sign the petition. And I think everything that he said, man, about feeling anxious, you know what I'm saying? Like, you ever take a test, like, and just feel like, you know, like, this just isn't right? You think we should go ahead and get rid of these tests for you guys?
Yes.
Yeah? Well,
Yes,
you know
sir.
what? I think these teachers are coming together, man, and we're going to make sure that we prove that our babies, our young kings, our young queens, our princesses, like, you know, that our young people are represented by more than the test score, man. And you are why we're doing this, man. So thank you so much for using your voice for that.
Kill the test.
Oh! Let's go! Yeah! Hey, man, I love it, my G. All right, man, you be good, man, and you make sure you take care of your mom, all right?
Yes, sir.
All right, brother. Okay. Rock, you want to segue us into the next situation?
Yeah, man. Wow. I'm just thinking about like who's counting on you, like who's counting on you to show up, right? And that was beautiful. One, sign up. If we can just sign a petition, right? Like we need everyone to go to teachersforgoodtrouble.org. If you have not signed a petition, if you have, elevate the petition, right? Amplify it, right? We know that one seed in the ground can spread many fruits. So we need you to share this petition with five people. You just share it, at least 5 people. So this is the moment for good trouble. We need you to sign and share this petition.
Yeah. 100%. Y'all make sure you sign the petition. The other thing is, if you live in Atlanta, if you live in LA, if you live in DC, if you live in New Jersey, we have rallies already scheduled, booked, and reserved. All right. So I need for you all to register for these rallies. Okay. You can go on our website, teachersforgoodtrouble.org, and you can register right now to be present at the rally. Okay, so please register right now, and we need these numbers because this is what allows us to talk to the news stations, talk to the radio stations, talk to whomever, and say, hey, we got this many people who are going to be showing up, and that's what's going to help us to amplify this even further. So please make sure you guys go to teachersforgoodtrouble.org and register for the December 15th Stick Out rallies. And beyond that, even if you don't have a rally in your city, we sticking out. We're going to shut down schools for the day, and we're going to make it known that teachers are not going to be complacent about these conditions that we are forced to be having to deal with, man. So let's go ahead and get into our first panel. All right, it's going to be moderated by Haley from Greenville. Okay, and we have a couple of other individuals that are going to be tapping in. We got my sis Claudine, we got Nurse Alice, we got Janetta, we got, come on, Nurse Alice comes from Cali, and then my brother, Mr. Daniel Patterson. Come on, y'all.
Whoa.
All right, let's get this thing rocking. Let's go. Haley, it's on you.
Hey guys, thank you so much for coming and being part of our panel. I think this is a great panel to have right after we listen to that adorable young man talk about his anxiety with testing. So my first question to y'all is, now we've been in this for 10 months. How are students uniquely affected by the pandemic?
I just want to jump in right out the gate and talk about trauma and how it impacts the brain. So trauma is just defined as a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. I'm sure we can all agree this pandemic has been incredibly traumatic, right? So we recognize that this qualifies as a traumatic event. When the adolescent brain or even pre-adolescent brain is exposed to extended periods of trauma, they get increases in stress hormone. What does that actually mean? We're weakening their immune system over time due to collective stress. Additionally, if they are in periods of trauma for a really long time, it can actually damage cognitive functioning. So how they think, how quickly they can process. Now, I need you to listen to what I am saying. If we could be damaging cognitive ability, if we could be increasing stress hormones through this period, why is it logical to be testing kids and adding more trauma? If you talk to people in counseling or in psychology, right now they're referring to this period as collective community trauma because all of us are being traumatized in this moment. Some of us just aren't aware enough to realize it. But if you have children, and I'm a mother, I'm a former school leader, and I'm an educational consultant, and I see the impacts on my son. I see the impacts on children currently due to the lack of socialization, due to the isolation, due to the fact that they are literally fearful of catching a virus they don't fully understand, yet they recognize they're not in control of. We need to ensure that our students are protected because exposing them to testing in this environment is absolutely asinine, and it isn't for their well-being. It's most definitely not for the well-being of teachers. It's to line the pockets of test makers. And I'm going to say the things that are not conventional. I'm going to say the things that some educators may not be able to say because I'm not beholden to anyone. So I want to be really clear. It is not more important to line the pockets of that 1% than it is to care for our children. And I will fight tirelessly to not only protect my child, but everyone else's child, because that's the oath that I took as an educator. No matter what position I ascend to, my kids and your kids will always come first, and I will fight for them that viciously with like the ferocity of a mama bear, because that's what they deserve. They deserve someone who's going to say, no, this is not okay. So I would hear from other folks, but I wanted to just jump in and really ground us in how this trauma is affecting young people. And be clear, it's also affecting adults, but our young people, especially because they have less coping skills, they have less lived experience, they have less support. And so it is high time that we cause good trouble and say, no testing, not our kids, not this year, not us. Thank you.
And so can I, as second Mama Bear number 2 is going to tap in, right? Time to tap in. So everyone, my name is Nurse Alice. I am an advanced practice nurse for over 23 years. I'm a mother and I'm an educator at the university in our nursing program. And I know a lot of the focus is on our children because they're vulnerable. We're responsible for protecting them, but I'm going to speak along the whole gamut from the children to the teachers to the janitors to the people that prepare the food for the kids, to everyone in the chain here. Is traumatizing for all of us. And when we're traumatized, as our good sister just said, it releases stress hormone that weakens our immune system. It changes and alters the chemistry in our body. It stunts and retards growth and development. And especially this happening in our young kids. This is the last thing we want. You don't want this. And then it predisposes them to other conditions, heart disease, diabetes, other things that we're not even thinking of because we're so concerned with just the coronavirus, because that's the invisible man, that's the fight that we're fighting that we can't see. And so, and when I heard of them wanting to continue testing, I was like, we can't even do the testing for coronavirus. How are we going to do the testing for the kids? What is happening here? So, I want to give everybody a chance to speak because I want to hear everybody's perspective. But as a nurse, as a healthcare professional, in so many ways, physically, mentally, emotionally, cognitively, we are doing a disservice to our young people. And not to mention putting them in an environment where we are actually putting them at risk for contracting coronavirus on top of all of the trauma and the other things we're predisposing them to. So, I mean, this is the last thing we need on our list. And I really don't understand, like the young man said before, he's more than his test score. Don't really touch me. That really touched me. And I think that soundbite needs to get into, that's the soundbites. Those are the things that we need the news to see in order to reel them in so they can take a look at what everyone here is talking about. Because I think this is such an important cause. And I value teachers. You guys, I mean, as a parent, I almost feel like you are the second parent because you are responsible for helping to mold and shape my kid. And I know that you are just as concerned about their safety and their growth as I am. So I support all of you all in this journey. And I'm really encouraging people to sign this petition.
Yeah, I want to hop in here. I'm Daniel. I'm a recovering public school administrator, and now I run a therapeutic high school, right? So I run a high school for students who need the highest level of care, who have experienced significant trauma, right? The curve that we need to flatten right now is the PTSD and trauma curve that is going to be insurmountable. You're worried about ICU beds. That's the least of our problems. Right now, on average, states are spending $1.7 billion on testing, on average, right? But then if they need help, if a student needs somebody, are they working with an intern or a social worker? The counseling staff is almost non-existent, if existent, perhaps shared on site. I've been a principal at a school that was doing standardized testing. All of the counselors for days and days, sorting tests, making seating charts. That's great for no one, because it takes away their capacity to actually have an attachment, a relationship with a student, so that when there's trouble, they have a reliable source. I would also like to point out that money, if you follow the money, I'd love to see where it goes, but it needs to be redirected to mental health services in school. We test for vision in school. We test for hearing in school. Where is the mental health screening and where is the follow through? The reason I'm here the most, I think, is that for white educators, the fortune's in the follow through. You can post whatever you want to post. Unless you mobilize and activate that compassion with your time, talent, energy, treasure, then go back to posting memes, because I'm not here for it. So put up or shut up. That's my take. But also in terms of the mental health, I'm writing legislation right now for Congress about mental health screenings in schools. And where I'm getting stuck is the realization that much like the rest of the decisions that get made in this country, it's white-centered. It's white-centered. Only 4% of psychologists practicing in the United States are Black. And only 2% of those are women. Only 2% of psychiatrists in the United States are Black, right? So who is setting the bar to how we screen these kids? And we need to put our students in front of role models who can say, look, I can do that as a job. Like I can be that. I can be there to help people. So reroute the money. And I'm all for canceling it now, but I want a full stop. Like end of story. It serves no one. It's a waste of money, and we need to redirect that to larger goals that benefit all learners.
Yes. I just want to first say thank you for speaking to that, Daniel, because I think that gets missed often, that when policies are crafted, they do tend to be white-centered. And it leaves out so much of America, and especially those who are most vulnerable, right? I teach in a district where the average income is $19,500. Okay. So and you add on top of that, just the cultural stigma that many Black folks and brown folks have around mental health. That's for other people. We don't talk about that. You know, we pray it away. We do all kinds of other tactics. And what happens is you end up harming young people. They end up trying to self-medicate, right? And so we end up with a whole bunch of other issues that trickle down from the fact that we're not actually addressing the real problem. And so if we took that $1.7 billion and we had counselors in school who were not just tasked with having to create master schedules, but actually were able to talk to the social and emotional needs of young people, perhaps we will be able to give these young folks something that they need right there at ground zero in the school site. So I just really want to piggyback on that, man, because that part is so important and gets missed. Something I really want Janetta to hit on is something else that I think we are missing, and that is the need of our children who have exceptionalities and disabilities, right? They're not, their needs are not being met, and they are being overlooked right now. And I don't even want to steal the thunder from it, because I think, Janetta, you are a great voice to that. So if you could, please just tap in on that part.
Yeah, thank you. So I come in as a teacher. I'm currently in the classroom. I'm a teacher of exceptional learners. Most people identify them as special needs students, and I chose that. This is kind of like my second career becoming a teacher. I've been in education, but I have not been in the classroom that long. And I decided to go in the classroom because just being on campuses, I saw a lot of students in that demographic that was often kind of like a holding cell. They're just pushing a bungalow. They're not held to any accountability or expectation to perform at their best ability. And they oftentimes just focus on their disability. So I usually tend not to call students, I don't like to use the term students with disabilities, because I want to focus on what they're able and capable of achieving. And when it comes to standardized testing, just when you have to proctor those tests, it's just, even the administrators, they know it's no point. They don't even believe in our kids being able to even score well in the test. They're like, oh, just give it to them. You know, they're not going to probably be able to do the test anyways. So my thing is, as an educator, if you know that this is a test that they're not even trained to do or even taught how to take, it's not even appropriate for them to take, really. Why are we continuously giving it to them? For what? What's the purpose of that? And going back to the trauma and the impact it has on those students, it's like it makes them have low self-esteem, feeling like doubting themselves, not knowing what they're capable of doing. They already feel challenged, already being set aside from the general population. But to add that test to them is extra stress for them and anxiety that happens, like Claudine spoke about. And one thing I think we have to also consider during the pandemic, our students in general are just really lacking social skills. A lot of them are hormonal, walking around with attitudes, angry, and they're being forced to log on and be in front of a computer from 4 to 6 hours a day. And then to add on a test, which already brings a lot of anxiety, it's not fair to them. And so as we're circling our movement around teachers and children, we need to understand it's not fair for teachers to put their health at risk, but also for our students. They need to feel confident in what they're able to do, and standardized testing doesn't even achieve that. Standardized testing just focuses on a very narrow content that they're not even exposed to. So it's really no purpose for them to even take that test. And when it comes to EL students, the test isn't even in their native tongue. So you might have someone that's reading it to them, or you may not. It depends if it was a part of their IEP, their individual educational plan. So if it wasn't part of their IEP, they're stuck with this test that they can't even relate to for numerous reasons. So that's why I'm joining this movement. That's why we need to definitely end standardized testing, especially during the pandemic.
What do you guys feel is like the unique threat of for our students at this time, having to deal with COVID, having to deal with some of us being forced? I'm 100% virtual. My school is forced this week back in the building just for testing. what is the unique vulnerability for our young people and our teachers with COVID?
I mean, I
Gosh.
think just go ahead,
Okay.
Nurse Alice, you got it.
Well, it's just upsetting to me that, students and adults are being forced to enter into an environment that we know is not safe. I mean, historically, we've already had 15.1 million people in the United States contract coronavirus. So we know that it's real. We know that it's real. We know that it exists. Do we even have the resources to even be trying to do something like this? You think of, the hand sanitizer, the disinfecting, the potential transmission. These kids are all going to convene at one place, mingling with other adults, people who have pre-existing conditions. People are now forced to have to, share their own pre-existing medical conditions where they would never be in an environment where they'd have to disclose, I have diabetes, I have hypertension. Not that that's anything to be ashamed of, but now you're having to disclose things that, people aren't really privy to, but you have to protect yourself. So that's another, people, your medical information is very personal, very private. Your health is something that's very intimate to you. And I'm so, I don't even know what the word is. I mean, as a nurse in the hospital, I can barely protect myself as a staff person to take care of people who are on ventilators and all of these things. Yet you want to willy-nilly go ahead and bring children to the school so they can test and, potentially expose each other. And we know that children are less likely to be symptomatic. I mean, when children contract COVID-19, they're more likely to be asymptomatic. However, they are just as infectious as anyone else. And then they go home to their Mima, their grandparents, their parents, their sisters and other people. And it just gets spread and spread and spread. And especially when you get into communities where we don't necessarily have the ability to always socially distance, because there's like 8 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment. And it really frustrates me that we have the science, we have the stats, yet, whoever it is in the school administration are making such decisions to jeopardize the health and well-being of not only the children, but the staff that are responsible and almost like second parents to our future generation. So it's very upsetting to me.
I appreciate that. Did anyone else have something that you want to speak on as far as that goes before I think
I'd like to hop in there a little bit with just sort of the underlying threat. I mean, I think that with standardized testing, we're looking at the wrong baseline. I think it's really important for us to standardize modalities to get information and to use that to better the education of our students. And I'll use the example of the dentist. Like, every student should be able to see a therapist like they see the dentist twice a year. We don't wait for their teeth to fall out to take them to the dentist. And now we have a time in the virtual world largely where students are being inundated with so much information. They're consuming so much news, media, social media, that they need a third-party filter to help them tease out how they feel about it, help them unpack it, because they're sitting in it. They sit in it all day long. And if you sit in it without a professionally trained, culturally aware person to help you think it through, right, and fact from fiction, then what we're going to end up with is a great baseline showing that nobody's learned anything, which is, again, the blame and shame game that admin likes to play with teachers, rather than getting the baseline that we need, which is wellness, and not just student wellness, but teacher wellness.
I appreciate that. We talk a lot on our platform about that. Go ahead, Claudine. Please take off.
And that was going to be the piece that I wanted to hit. Like, while student wellness and safety is really important, I think one of the things we haven't hit on is what our teachers are going through mentally and emotionally right now, right? So like, social emotional health isn't just for students, right? We all should be aware of our social emotional health, and it's a continuum. And right now, many of us are regressing our ability to best care for ourselves because we are literally being traumatized right now. And so I think the expectations of teachers are really unrealistic right now. My husband has been a teacher for years, and so I'm watching him on a daily basis teach at home, have to do video conferencing, make extra phone calls, work late into the night to plan virtual lessons and differentiated lessons, right? So he's putting all of these new skills to use, but he's not being developed. There isn't anything to ensure his social emotional well-being is okay. And he's just being asked to press forward and press forward. And literally this week, his district sent out an email about reopening, right? And so this creates a lot of anxiety in our home, because now it's, oh, you might have to go back to work, and our son might have to go back to school, and we're not doing that. And if we don't feel comfortable with him doing that, then why am I comfortable with you doing that? And I just think we're not being super cognizant that educators are people too. They have families, they have children, and their families and their children are literally being sacrificed in this process because they are going to work. They are being forced to be around a multitude of people, which is the exact opposite of what we should be doing. And then they go home every day and fearfully kiss their partner or fearfully tuck their child into bed, similar to people in the healthcare field, and just hope that they haven't contracted something. That's not good enough. Our phenomenal speaker at the top of this call, Mr. Anderson, shared his educator friend had COVID twice. I have countless friends that have had COVID, and the impacts are so long lasting. It just underscores how much we don't know about this virus. And yet we're telling kids and teachers to go to school to take a test to get data that we already know isn't going to be phenomenal. Why don't we focus on making sure everyone is mentally stable so that our suicide rates go down? Because right now, the national suicide rate has risen. The national depression rate has risen. The national rate of people with anxiety and seeking mental health services has risen. Why? Because this is traumatic. It just seems so simple to me, which is why I get so passionate about it. Like, this is scary. I don't know anyone that isn't triggered and affected by it. Why are we trying to do normal things when nothing is normal?
Right. I had to hit the soundboard on that one. That's a whole fact. I appreciate all of the insights that everyone who's given. Thank you so much for really talking about some of the things that I think really gets missed in this conversation about schools being closed, schools being reopened, us having to do standardized tests in the midst of it all. I think like we're really, really giving voice to topics that need to be discussed. And I think it is what is very special about this group. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for lending your voices to this effort, lending your energy, your social capital to this effort. You guys are the reason that we will get the win. You guys are the reason that I believe we will save many, many lives throughout this country. We finally get a stoppage to standardized testing during this pandemic. So again, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see here. What are we doing? So I wanna bring in Miss Mary. And Mary is going to be really giving us some insights on our students who are SEL students, English as a second language students, right? And talking about what are some of the challenges that they're having right now, because again, this is another population of students that folks are not talking about right now. Rock, you have anything you want to say to segue into Mary?
No, definitely. I think we all need to think about the different populations that are not being just highlighted at this time. So thank you for being here, Mary, and thank you for all the panelists.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate this opportunity. I want to just share briefly a little bit about my background. My first 5 years of teaching were spent in a Spanish classroom, primarily teaching Spanish from levels 1 through 5. And when I first started teaching, my first few years were spent proctoring exams during testing season for students that I didn't actually teach. I was clueless about the level of stress and behavioral changes that they were experiencing as students because I didn't know them and I hadn't seen their behaviors prior. I felt I just kind of had to suck it up and deal with the situation and the stress of running around between different classroom environments and being in spaces that weren't my own. 2 years ago, I switched from teaching Spanish for joy to teaching English for survival as an English language development teacher. And yes, I mean that in all seriousness, it is that deep for my students. I can't say that finally because it wasn't anything exciting or I looked forward to. I mean the testing, to clarify, but I got to see firsthand the stress and the direct impact that high stakes exams have on English learning students. Students who, may I add, are oftentimes dealing with their own personal traumas, culture shock, language learning frustrations, so much more. ELs are truly a remarkable group of students, but they enter the US with numerous resources that unfortunately don't get tapped into because of their spaces and the pressure for assessment and progress and growth and that mindset of surviving and surviving throughout all their classes. So I'm telling you right now is the time to change what we've been doing in learning, in assessments, in all of education. The well-being of our students are truly more important than any test can ever assess. And right now in 2020, moving forward, our students benefit from highly engaging lessons, ones that involve them in all aspects, not tomorrow, not next year, but now. Problem and project-based and community-based learning are all proven to be culturally responsive teaching practices that make meaningful connections between what the students learn at home and what they need to learn at school. And currently we're wasting so many hours in the middle of a global pandemic to figure out the logistics of testing. We're spending billions of dollars on standardized testing. The very people who claim to always put students first don't engage with them or ask for their input. Students are rarely or never at the table for matters that directly impact them. And I'm calling you teachers, we've got work to do. Parents, I know we're doing that work. We continue to do that work, but we need to now more than ever ask for the support of our parents. We need parent engagement. We need your support. This can work and will continue, but we need to get these tests completely out of the way and bring back the joy in education. We'll continue to bring in the joy in education because it's not gone. We need to get these barriers out of the way.
100%. Yo, thank you so much for giving voice to this. Again, we kind of, sometimes just think about like what the overall issues are, and we kind of forget those who are often forgotten in the midst of all of us kind of being in a stage of emergency. Our ELL babies, like they deserve to be advocated for. Our students who are first generation Americans, they deserve to be advocated for. Those who are newcomers, they deserve to be advocated for. And so I appreciate you being a voice and a light for all of those individuals and for keeping us focused on making sure that we are advocating for everybody. Ms. Mary, thank you so much for being here and lending your voice. Did you have anything you wanted to say before we segue into the next panel?
Nope, let's just keep doing the work. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right, so we're gonna get ready to tap into our very next panel, okay? So on this next panel, I have some very good friends of mine who are gonna be tapping in. All right, so we have the Queen Sheba, all right, who is Grammy nominated. We got Dr. Brian Perkins. We got Ahmed, who, like, yo, I just watched some of your videos the other day, man, and I'm talking about, I say, yo, the scholar and the activist, man, the force is strong with this one, and we also have my sister, Ms. Deidre from Black Girls Teach, who is going to be on this panel as well. And of course, we'd be remiss if we did not bring in my co-host, Mr. Rakim, and you guys know him as the Insightful Teacher. So thank you all for joining us. Let's get this thing going. All right. So listen, so this panel right here is really talking about why it is important for educators to be activated, why it is important for educators to start speaking up, and for us to really get out of a position of comfort and complacency. Like, why now? And so I really want to just kind of put this thing out there. As we do here, man, the Queen speaks first. So I'm gonna get this to Deidre first. Why is it that now is the right time for us to take a stand on standardized testing?
I mean, it's been the time, it's been the time for a while. And I think we're in a unique situation with COVID, with this pandemic. And it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like as an educator, we take so much, we take so much There are so many behaviors that we have normalized that we're like, okay, we'll take the low pay. Okay, you want us to work 12 hours, we'll work 12 hours. You know, if okay, like weekends too, that's fine, right? We take so much and we tolerate so much and we normalize all of these behaviors. And then it comes to a point where it's like, enough is enough, because now you're risking my life. You know, you're risking my life, you're risking my family's life. You're taking all of these risks for what? Like what actually, why do we need these tests? Are we actually going to be utilizing this data to make decisions, or is it to have money in people's pockets? So this is the time now where we have to take a stand, because we got to get the ball rolling. This is the first of many issues that we need to tackle, and it's not going to be the last. There are many different issues. And I think this is a time where, you know, if you look on here, there's all these people that are just like invested in this movement. So we need to keep the momentum going and really be able to tackle this beast. And then once we're doing this, we're moving on to the next thing, because we can no longer continue to normalize the same behaviors and then continue complaining about it. Like, I am tired of complaining about it. I've been in education for 15 years now, and I'm over it. I'm done. I'm ready to do the work, and the time is now.
100%. Queen Sheba, do you want to tap in on that? Why is now an important time for us to be taking a stand against standardized testing?
Like you mentioned in the beginning of this was not built for us. This was not meant for us. As several educators already mentioned earlier, the teachers are not being taught how to give the test. The students aren't being trained properly. We're just being thrust into a high stress situation and then told to figure it out. So it's not time to figure it out. It's time to get in front of it.
Ahmed.
Nope. I say.
Come on. Yes.
I think because Queen, I'm gonna pick up on something that you did right when he asked that question. You were like, like, you know, this is kind of a silly question, and it's interesting because I always realize, or I've come to learn, that activism is really about bringing people's attention to things that have always been true. It's not new ideology. It's not new ways of thinking. It's not some, you know, realization that people stumbled upon that said there's something that's potentially problematic about it. It's literally about the tipping point between what is and what has always been right and true. And what we know about standardized assessments, we know about standardized testing, and by extension, we can talk about grading, is that it's never worked, right? It's never worked. This kind of like descriptive versus evaluative feedback, we know evaluative feedback does more to suppress an individual's ability to succeed than it does encourage it. It's literally implementation of what are capitalistic structures and norms, whereby the people with the most get the most and the people with the least get the least, implementing that in an education model. So we know it's never worked. And honestly, if we want to be real with it, public education in this country is barely 100 years old. The way we know it now, compulsory public education, where people went to a local school that was funded and it was obligatory, it existed across all 50 states by 1918. It's 2020. It's like 102 years old. And grading systems in this evaluative structure dates all the way back to colleges and universities who didn't even show it to students or use it as a means for them to like push their actions or what they did. We're talking like 1940s is when this A to F 0 to 100 thing kind of popped off. And in the 1970s, it was barely like in 2/3 of schools. So like all of this stuff is new and it hasn't worked. So we have to ask ourselves why it was implemented. So when you talk about this idea of like, why is now the right time? Now's the right time because we're at this point where people are just like, you know what? It's enough, right? Like it's enough. That's all that is. It's not like educators suddenly are realizing that it's problematic. It's that educators are suddenly saying, you know what, like this is the wall and we've reached it. And now this is where we push back. And that has been the narrative of any and all movements of people and revolutions in history.
And the thing that triggered me on campus was earlier when another educator was talking about how they don't even care about the outcome. I've been told a couple times, oh, just give it in the beginning and then give it in the end. And then we'll see what the variance is and how much you as the teacher were able to resonate with the students over a 4-month period. So what was the point of me giving it to them in the first place?
I mean, MCATs are now optional, y'all. Like medical schools are making MCATs optional. So I jump in these conversations, I'm like, what are we really talking about? What are we really saying right now? What are we talking about? And why is this conversation different when you're talking about the most underserved, underrepresented, and disadvantaged of people in society? And that's what it is, right? That's what it is. Welfare programs and government bailouts are like everybody wants them when you're talking about capitalistic institutions and people with money and power. But when you're talking about people who need it or benefit from something different, all of a sudden the conversation, the points and the key points that you make are fundamentally differently. So we got to like bring our attention to that and be like, yeah, nah, you're not gonna swindle me with this game this time.
100%. I think it's time for us to get rid of the redlining in education. And that is exactly what standardized testing is.
And we have to be not scared to lose our jobs behind it and say no, I'm not doing that.
Yep.
But also we got to realize the system doesn't function without us. That's the part. You know what I'm saying? If every educator actually had the fortitude to say, yo, December 15th, we ain't going in the building. We shutting down American schools throughout the country for the day. That's going to shake people. Now, what has to be understood is this. People be like, oh, it's just one day. What does that mean? Yo, what it means is you got a whole new administration that's coming into power on January 20th, right? You're going to have a new Secretary of Education. You got a new Congress coming in. What does that mean? That means, yo, Congress, you got a mandate. You have a mandate right now that you need to strike out the requirement for standardized testing throughout this country once and for all. America, y'all talk about education is supposed to be the great equalizer. I'm sorry, but the only reason that you guys are advocating to keep these systems in place is because your capitalism is showing.
There you go. I mean, teachers don't need schools, but schools need teachers.
Hello.
Come on.
Let's structure in order. Let's keep our perspective there.
If we really
Kim, I was about to hand it to you. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, you know, I feel like in history, like, if an object in motion stays in motion until acted upon by equal opposite force. And we 3.7 million teachers are the equal and opposite and powerful force, right? So when I think about that, right now in the midst, if we look historically during this month for 381 days was taking the Montgomery bus boycott, right? So they boycotted and it was 381 days, right? And I feel like we're just asking people for one day. Like one day, we're not asking for 381 days. We're asking for one day for teachers to really stand up and take back what's rightfully ours, right? The school building is not the school. The people are the school, right? Yeah. So the school doesn't run without us, right? So I'm really pushing people to really to understand that you have the power, and power concedes nothing without demand, and we must make our demands felt, right? And we have nothing to lose but our chains. And I just want us to really think about us. We have the power.
And as technology develops, the standardized testing should have been adjusted years ago anyway. At this point, we can not only call out sick on the 15th, we can take a day off, we can close the laptops, we can not turn our cameras on. There's a lot of different ways that we can be impactful.
Yes, there are a lot of educators who are like, oh, I teach 100% virtual. What can I do to really disrupt?
Don't turn the camera on.
Don't turn the camera on.
Watch this.
Don't turn the that part. Okay. Word up. Like really shut it down.
Exactly.
Shut it down. But then the other part is mobilize. Okay. So we're asking everybody to mobilize. Listen, y'all. Reserve your local town hall. Reserve in front of your school board of education building. Reserve your state capitol. Here in Atlanta, we're gonna be at the state capitol.
Open, not while they're closed.
Correct.
After hours.
And listen, that's only part of it, right? Because you better believe I'm still reaching out to Nikema Williams. Just got John Lewis's seat. I'm still reaching out to Kwanzaa Hall, who is there until Nikema Williams takes over, right? Because the thing is that this requires congressional action. If we are not tapping in with the people who we elect to be in office, we're missing the point. And so for those people who are like, oh, well, if you ain't handling policy, then what are y'all doing all this for? Yo, we're doing all of it, okay? Because first you got to agitate, then you got to demonstrate, and then you got to legislate. So people got to understand that there are steps to this, and we ain't missing any steps. We got 250 educators working behind the scenes for Teachers for Good Trouble, okay? Split up in committees. Split up in areas where we're able to use our strength as educators to make this thing go. This is not a game. We're not here to play. We're not here to give lip service or fodder to anybody. We are actualizing the change that we need. We are modeling for our students what self-advocacy looks like. We are modeling to our students what being a good American citizen looks like, what it means to be a patriot looks like. This is what it looks like, America. I know some of y'all are afraid of this. And I know, and shout out to my white educators out there who are tapped in already, who are working with us already. But let's be clear, just because it was some black educators who jumped off the porch first doesn't mean you can't jump too. Yes. Don't be afraid of this movement. Don't be afraid of this movement because a white counterpart did not start it. This is for all of us. This is not about race. This is not about gender. This is not about our identities. This is about doing what is right for children.
Teachers are the voice for the voiceless.
It's interesting. If we look at history, that exact narrative that you framed repeats itself over and over again. The structures and the power dynamics that have existed in this country and the history of them are predicated on this idea of taking groups of people who have more in common than different and convincing them to be separate and disparate from each other. Anytime you've had people who've been united in common effort, the 99% has always been more powerful than the 1%. Always, every single time. And the only way that the 1% maintains authority, power, control, and influence is by fracturing that 99%. And we have to realize that. And we also have to realize that, like, these things, we often act like a day won't make a difference. And if one day didn't make a difference, then furlough days wouldn't be a thing. You'll get like a district. We got a what are we gonna do? Furlough one day, right? Like,
that's right.
Come on. What happens when you've been in a teacher and been in a classroom and somebody on your team is absent? It was just one day. No, it literally fractures like the fabric of how those systems function and operate. In any protest, any movement, any loud voice that has stood to disrupt the status quo has been disruptive. And when we agitate, it must be disruptive. And it's not disrupting the way things are moving normally, like during work hours, like during, you know, the what's meant to happen, what's scheduled for the day, then it's ineffective as a form of protest. No such thing as a silent protest, because silence isn't just about the volume of an individual, it's about the volume of the action. You don't have to say words to have loud actions.
There's a haiku. Deidre. The only problem with a silent protest is that no one can hear you.
Come on.
Correct.
Deidre, I want to ask you, what are some other ways?
Your sound.
You know, we had to get, oh, man, you know it, man. We got to have Christian present. Deidre, what are some of the different ways that teachers can support our movement? Let's say they don't stick out, right? Let's say in the event someone doesn't stick out. What are some ways that they can be disruptive or they can be present in the movement while in the building or while logged on?
Well, first, like, definitely making a donation to Teachers for Good Trouble, because there are going to be teachers that are going to call out, right? And we're taking a risk by doing that. We're taking a risk by amplifying all of this. Like, there is risk involved. So by making that donation, that allows us to be able to support any of those teachers that might be impacted. The second thing I would say is we need to all do our research. And I keep saying this and I'm gonna keep saying it. We got to follow the money. Like, if you are not convinced that there are people benefiting from these standardized tests, you need to follow the money. And I'm not just talking about the test makers. I'm talking about a lot of these blended learning programs that we're using that are really test prep programs, iReady, Lexia, all of those programs, they are made by the same companies, Pearson, Houghton Mifflin, McGraw-Hill. Like, do the research, follow the money. There are people that are benefiting from us being able to use these things, right? So if we're saying stop standardized testing, there are going to be people that might not get the promotions. They might not be able to see that data growth that they want because they want to excel in their career, right? Because this is really all about money. When it boils down to it, that's what it's about. So take the time to do the research. And I would also say, just like in your school building, you have a lot of influence. You have a voice. Speak up, say things. When something doesn't sound right, ask questions. If you see your school is showcasing all of this data and praising all the students with the top scores, start asking about the students that are not on the board. Ask about the students who they're not praising. Like, we have to do this work, not only like outside, but we have to do it within our schools. Because if we're just, going to protest on the 15th, but when we're in these meetings and we have an opportunity to say something and we're being silent, then that's not helping us. So we need people, if you're not going to be able to do this work with us on the 15th, right? Then we need you in your building starting to make some good trouble, like, period.
Word up. Yo, 100%. Yo, I first just want to say thank you to everybody for tapping in on this panel. You guys are all extremely dynamic individuals in your own right. You guys are all Black history in the making, as I love to say. I have the pleasure of knowing some of you personally, and Ahmed, I'm getting to meet you for the very first time. I am extremely impressed by your presence from afar, and I'm extremely honored to have closer proximity to you, and look forward to having continued conversation and dialogue with you in the future as well. Is there anything that you guys want to say briefly before we segue into our next panel?
I just want to say that the greatest lie that exists in education is the minimization of the power of educators and teachers in the classroom every single day. Like that's what the system of control is predicated on. And I think the second we realize that and we kind of pull that wool, that's the second the game changes.
Okay. Deidre?
I mean, you know, I felt I kind of said what I wanted to say about last comment, but you know, I'm just ready to do this work, and I hope you guys are too. Like, it's time. The time is now. I think about the James Baldwin quote. He says, like, how much more time do we need? Like, we've been like, this has been just like time. It's now. The time is now.
Thank you.
Yes.
The Queen Sheba.
The thing that keeps coming up for me is that on the 15th, it is the one day that we're asking everybody to mobilize and unite. However, this will be an ongoing battle. So just be prepared for the marathon.
Yes, the marathon continues.
The marathon continues.
Word up, word up. All right, Rock, you got us?
Yeah, I got us. Thank y'all for coming. This was an amazing panel. So our next panel, right, is an esteemed panel. So it's calling the leader in you, and I just want to bring Noemi on the stage to moderate. Dr. Brian Perkins, Dr. Melanie Dukes, Principal Ra, Dr. Scott, and everyone behind closed doors. Come on. Get in the building. I think this is an amazing panel to hear from you all, because we really need to hear what the leaders, right? The leaders in terms of the schools are the leaders in education are saying. So we're really looking forward to this panel. While everyone's coming up, if you haven't, please register for your local rally. Please sign the petition. Please get involved. Please get involved. We really need to hear what the leaders, right? The leaders in terms of the schools are the. So, Noemi, you are the moderator for this panel. And I just would like you to just take it away, if you're ready. So you can just unmute yourself, Noemi, and then you can just mute and unmute when you're there. Go ahead.
Perfect. You know, that's like the common meme nowadays for Zoom. Welcome, everyone. You all, I'm so super excited about this panel of dynamic leaders. So we've been talking a lot about parents and students and what are the implications on them. But what we haven't talked about is what are the implications from a leadership perspective, right? What does this pandemic, canceling standardized testing in a pandemic mean? What does it require from leadership? What are the things that we should be talking about and thinking about? And so I have a dynamic panel here. We have Dr. Brian Perkins. He is the director, a director at Columbia University Teachers College. He's a director of the Summer Principals Academy. Here we have Rashid Williams, who is the director of post-secondary outcomes in Jacksonville, Florida. Is he here yet? Let's get Rashid to the stage as well if he's not here yet. We have Dr. Melanie Dukes. She is the director of gifted and talented coordinator at Wesley International here in Atlanta. We have Principal Amen Ra, who is out in LA, California, in Watts. And we also have, is it Dr. Scott? Is that correct? Did I say your name correctly?
It's D. Scott. I don't have a doctorate yet.
Okay, all right, D. Scott, who has also done some incredible work around leadership, educational consultant, and you can also tell us a little bit more about what you do. So here's the first question that I want us to kind of dig into, and feel free to also just briefly introduce yourself when you choose to answer this one. But we want to talk a little bit about what are the implications from a leadership lens, what are the implications of this pandemic on standardized testing, and what does this mean?
Look, this is about your why right now. Like, as a leader, as a principal, just shout outs to everybody. I'm Principal Raw, straight out of Compton. Let me just correct you, real no Amy. But listen, it's really for a principal right now. It's really tapping into that why. There's a lot of leaders who went through the ranks as a teacher, who got to that principalship, and they was that fighter for equity. But where's your fight right now? Right? Like, young people need you right now. Teachers need you right now. The community needs you right now, right? And I always talk about, like, you cannot fight the existing reality. You can't fight against the existing reality, right? We so much of the time as teachers, we try to fight so hard to overcome this standardized test. We try to fight so hard to overcome this standardized test. In order to really change something, we need to dismantle and own. Right? We need to dismantle the standardized test, and we need to own access points. So as a principal, right, and as a leader who can't be the hoorah and be out there on December 15th and all that, you can spread up and by having a voice. You can be over there and cultivate. You can bring your words to power. Like the young king that just said, he said, man, I'm more than a test score. Well, guess what, young king? I'm more than a principal. I'm an educator. I'm a human being. And this humane-oriented leader that we all need to be is putting humans first, putting human beings first. So what I say is, for everybody who is not a teacher, is if you're talking about the humane-oriented leader that is needed right now, you have to bring that to the forefront. You have to say young people matter, their lives matter, their parents matter, teachers matter, and bring that to the forefront as a leader.
Hey everyone, thank you and greetings to everyone for even allowing me to be on this panel. I'm so honored and humbled to be here and to be called to do this work. I am just, before we even get into this process of ending standardized testing, I think we have to get into the mindset of understanding the beginnings of standardized testing, right? Standardized testing is just like when we talk about policing. It was designed to discriminate against people of color, Black and brown children, to make sure that we are putting these people in pockets of learned behaviors, right? It was designed that way. And in order for us as educators to stand up, we have to understand that mindset that, yes, okay, standardized test is cool. It kind of, puts us in these little boxes of how we could teach them and gives us testing and data. However, the foundation of standardized testing kills our students. And when I say kills our students, I mean it breaks down our students' confidence in being able to really achieve what they're supposed to achieve. Now, I'm the gifted and talented coordinator at my school, and that's just like an oxymoron when we're doing like equity work, right? But when I got my gifted endorsement, certification or endorsement rather in Atlanta, it was to make sure that all students had access to these so-called activities and tasks that were supposed to be for gifted students. I believe that all students are gifted and talented. We just need to make sure that we are nurturing, exposing them to different things so that they can really fulfill their real gift and talent. And when you ask that question, like, what is it for us to do? As an instructional specialist who coaches teachers, I am continuously and consistently saying all students are gifted and talented. We need to make sure we're building them up. We're building their confidence. We're pulling in the social emotional learning pieces of them so we can make sure that we're doing what they need to do. And student voice, I tell you, we do not do justice to what our students really need. And we need to listen to what our students need. We need to bring in, and I know I'm jumping ahead, but I feel like, we need to dive in as leaders in pushing those authentic assessments that really tap into what our students need and really tap into what real world is, right? Our real life experiences, our education system, well, I would say the public education, because white schools, private white schools, know how to tap into the leadership role, building those leaders. But our public schools are so tied to the politics of education and testing that we fail our students in really knowing who their authentic selves are. But I could keep on preaching. You know me, Noemi. I will keep on going. I will leave it open to everyone else. I thank you for this, and I thank you for giving me that platform.
Thank you. Yeah, so let's dive in a little bit more here, because we started, and if any of you have want to add on to anything she said, I do want to just plug in here that right now, something that is being discussed a lot around leaders, obviously they know that, we all know that there is a tie to federal programming around standardized testing. Schools are obviously threatened if you don't take this and you don't get funding. And so that is something that's weighing really heavy on a lot of leaders. What's also weighing heavy is the fact that in this time, the data is going to be invalid, right? And so, Rashid, I know you are working with post-secondary outcomes, and you have a lot of insight in terms of what this means for seniors. But I'd love to also invite Dr. Perkins and D. Scott into this conversation as well.
Yeah, Noemi, I literally just left the school about an hour ago working with one of our seniors who her highest score in the SAT was an 880, which equals a 16 on the ACT. Here's a young lady with a 3.4 GPA. So her options are limited right now. She just took the SAT in October and just took the ACT in August. What is she supposed to do now? Her number one choice school is FAMU or HBCU, who had to raise their standards in the state of Florida just so they can compete with other public schools in the state of Florida. So again, here we are, standardized scores, limiting this young lady who has worked 12 years of her life from K through 12 to now have to look at test optional schools in another state, which now enters her into out-of-state tuition. So the dominoes are endless. And I see this happening every day that I'm logging in and helping our students. And to me, it's just asinine that we're looking at standardized testing on a national level for students in minority groups that are already with scores that are far behind their peers in affluent neighborhoods because of the way the education system is structured. So, I mean, we could go down, and a lot of people have already hit on this already. It literally is, as the saying says, if white folks have a cold, black folks got cancer right now. And I with cancer when it comes to these standardized test scores.
So thank you so much for having me on this this panel. I'm honored to be here. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting some of you, but Rashid, Noemi, I know we've had time together. I want to just say that we are here talking about the standardized tests, and we're talking about today. So we're in the urgency of this moment of the global pandemic. But as both Noemi and Rashid will tell you, I'm a very strategic thinker when it comes to how we have to plan our actions. And so in this moment, it's urgent. But it was actually urgent a year ago, 10 years ago. On and on. We've been at this for a long time. We have forgotten to maintain that pressure. I think about, and I had shared with colleagues earlier and certainly there's some examples that go back earlier than this, but when Charles Murray wrote The Bell Curve, there was this big this outrage. How could he say that? And we need to dismantle standardized tests. And so now I've been in education long enough where I'm starting to see these patterns of kind of cycles of disgust, but cycles of action that subside eventually. And so what I'm saying is that I think, we have to recognize the urgency right now and continue the pressure. We have to continue and not give up on the fact that it starts long before, and Rashid, I know you know this, it started long before that young lady got into high school. you know, the disadvantage that she had early on happened and set it up where now she's doing poorly or not as well on the ACT and the SAT. It didn't just happen in high school. These were things that were disadvantages from a long time ago. And so, you know, I'm saying all of this to say that I think this is a worthwhile moment. Let's not lose it. Let's stay the course and say, we are, like, for the last time, we're serious this time. This has got to end. And so at a time when test scores will be absolutely meaningless. And I see all the comments about, yes, it is a multi-billion-dollar industry. What this is really about is that there are lobbies that keep these tests important to state boards of ed, local boards of ed. They're lobbying. And so this is a process so that we have to understand that we go after the people who are actually making the decisions. One just quick thing I want to tell you, a colleague of mine, Joshua Starr, who used to be the superintendent in Stamford, Connecticut. I was on the Board of Ed in New Haven. He became the superintendent of Montgomery County in Maryland. And some years ago, there was he said, you know, we're revamping our curriculum. And so we want to do a moratorium on standardized testing. It made national news because this was Montgomery County, Maryland. And so people were outraged. He didn't stay there much longer. But the whole point was that if we're in the middle of revamping our curriculum, why should we do standardized tests and hold the kids accountable for something that we haven't even figured out? Now, so that was then. So think about right now. How ridiculous is it? We're talking about right now implementing a standardized assessment at a time when some kids nationally in March received copy packets and were sent home. Some kids received Chromebooks that didn't work, no internet, and sent home. And others had Chromebooks, Macs, iPads, and internet, all. So there was this huge disparity in what people have, but we're still talking about doing standardized tests. So it's all over the place. But at the end of the day, we have to do something about staying the course and getting these standardized tests put where they need to be, and that's in the trash.
Thank you, Dr. Perkins. Go ahead.
So I'll just do a short introduction. I want to say that whatever Dr. Perkins just said was right on target. And so I echo his sentiments. So I'm a former teacher, principal, and superintendent. I've been in education for 20 years. And I have seen exactly what Dr. Perkins talks about, which is these cycles of movement and pressure. And then basically they go away and nothing really ever changes. And one of the things that, you know, as I've been involved with now Teachers for Good Trouble for less than a week, I found you by doing research, which I've been doing for my whole career. And I hooked up with Shivy, who we had a really great conversation on Instagram about the movement and what's going on. So I really want to talk about like what this is all about, and hopefully, you know, with the people that are watching, you know, we're going to have a bit of a blind spot. The people that are watching right now are the choir. So we're preaching to the people who get it. The question is, how do we expand beyond that? And from all the things that I've seen so far, there are over 10,000 people who have signed up for the petition. I've signed it. Hopefully everybody that's watching has signed it. But one of the key strategies that needs to happen beyond the sick out, because as Shivy says you have to agitate first, but the agitation is the pawn. That's it. That's move one, but it doesn't do anything. It just is move one. You need to have 1 million signatures on that petition, because if you do, when Shivy makes a call, they can't ignore him. I've been doing this for 20 years. I have been the thorn. I'm from New Jersey, so Shivy and I also have that. So he's a Jersey boy, I'm a Jersey boy. I have the ear of all of the legislature here in New Jersey. I was invited to testify in 2017 for the Joint Committee for the Committee on the Public Schools. And so I was the only like administrative educator that was invited to speak. Everybody else was a lobbyist, strategist, politician. They didn't want to hear the truth. They had parents. They wanted the story. They didn't want the underlying issues. And that's because it's too complicated. And so what we need to make sure is that the public and the media, and Shivy talked about that if he talks to the media, they're like, well, I don't know. They can ignore this because we keep fracturing ourselves. And I think Maddie, says, so he had come on the previous panel and he said the fracturing is the problem. It is. Teachers need to stand up for teachers. Administrators need to stand up for schools. Parents need to stand up for their kids. Everybody needs to stand up for their why, but all the whys converge on the same thing. You can believe whatever you want about standardized testing. You can believe that standardized testing is racist. You can believe that standardized testing is trying to disadvantage people. You can believe any one of those things because none of them are inaccurate. But it doesn't matter what you believe. What matters is stopping the test. And so what we need to do is make the message, don't test. The problem that media people have, and I'm a former reporter. Before I got into education, I was a reporter for the Star Ledger. I was also on radio. And so one of the problems that reporters and media have is that once you ask the question, because they're going to say, well, why should the test be stopped? And you have 15 different reasons, story's over. It needs to be that the test is a waste of time, especially during a pandemic. We can get into other things about what testing is. And personally, because I'm always looking, and I think Dr. Perkins even said it, he's talking about strategy. Today is just one moment. But as educators, we need to look at the future because we're training, we're coaching, we're teaching kids how to be successful in their future. We already have our future. We are currently educators. We do what we do. We are getting a paycheck. We are living our American dream. But kids need an opportunity in their future. And the only way to do that is to actually look ahead. And we're not. We haven't looked ahead in 100 years. We're teaching a 19th century curriculum. The 19th century is over. The 20th century is over. And guess what? The 21st century is over. Kids in kindergarten today will be alive at the turn of the next century. We are not looking ahead at all because we're too focused on the problems of today. We have to solve the problems of today, but with a future-minded strategy. So one of the projects that I'm working on, which will be at the district level, is a 22nd century project, curriculum. And one of the issues that standardized testing, which we haven't talked about, is what does standardized testing actually test? And all it tests is memory recall of content. Now, once you get into choosing what content you want to teach, that's automatically discriminatory. It's prejudicial. It's biased because one person's belief that this content is more important than that content means that you're going from your own experience, your own truth, and your truth may not be correct for someone else.
I love that we're talking about the what next, which is exactly what a lot of folks are thinking about. And one thing that you said, Scott, is ensuring that we are all collectively saying the same message. And so when we talk about the what next, right? I just want us to dig in here just for a little bit because we started to go there. What is the data that we should be collecting during this time? How do we, what's out there? What's the thoughts, the thoughts that are out there around this?
I'm not sure if there's any national data that can be collected. I think one of the problems, and I just put out a YouTube video on this, that the standardized testing requires a standard for actual testing. And with school districts deciding to do in-person, hybrid, or remote, you've lost that standard. So anyone that takes this test this year, the scores are invalid just based on the testing protocols.
Yeah.
Just on the protocols of testing. And I've been doing the test for 20 years.
Yep.
And so I know, and as any of the other educators know, you know what goes into actually getting the test up and running.
So check this out. What's really important is the standardized test. It's a standardized test across the country, and it's standardized in unstandard conditions, right? Like grades right now, data is on relative privilege. Like that's really what it's about. And let's just drop this in here real quick. See, we work really hard to try to overcome this standardized test, and then you start actually closing this so-called achievement gap. And then what happens, educator? They change it. Right? And this happens time and time again. So really the call to action is when we're for this teachers for good trouble, when we're for this good trouble, right now it's good. But don't make no doubt about it. There's going to be trouble. And when those stones come, because there's multi-billion-dollar industry, when those stones come, as a collective, we need to make diamonds out of the pressure. And what we do by making diamonds out of the pressure is we take this moment, like Dr. Perkins said, and we make sure that it's sustained for a movement, right? And when this movement happens, we need to also, let's make no doubt about it, that it's not just a K through 12 issue. It's also a higher ed issue, right? Higher ed, do not count the tests. Fight against it and don't count it. Build partnerships, right? Like these things have to happen. And for that educator that needs to hear this, when you're tired of being sick and tired, tell yourself that you're fired and give the job to God, right? When that happens, that means everybody does a little and no one person does a lot. It shouldn't be on just one person. It shouldn't be on just one teacher. It shouldn't be on just one doctor. It shouldn't just be on one president. It shouldn't be on just one activist, right? That's what we call a Sankofa principle. That's what we call the Nguzo Saba principle of collective work and responsibility. So when we're collective, this happens, and now we are prepared for the good trouble. Tool up. Get your tools ready. You need to understand the dynamics of the system in which we operate in. And you have to ask yourself, are you fighting to just work well in an inequitable system, or you're trying to fight to change the fact that it's an inequitable system? And those are key things you got to ask yourself.
Thank you, Principal Ra. Let's hear from Melanie. I think she wanted to say something.
Yes, I would love to. So yes, Principal Ra, yes, all facts, we have to pull it in. Some of the things to speak to what Noemi was asking was about what do we actually do? Like, what are some of the alternative assessments? When I spoke to you about student voice, right? We pull in these authentic assessments that teachers know and love, and they do automatically, but because they're so trained, or told rather, not trained, but told that they have to teach to a test because they have to pass because it's tied to funding and all these pieces, they teach to the test. But in reality, we know the authentic selves of our students. We know the social and social emotional learning pieces of our students, and we need to tap into that by providing project-based learning. We have where you listen to student voice of what do we need to do when we're in high school, right? Instead of going through these exams, you have internships. So they learn these little skills. Now, we understand that you have to have these skills from kindergarten and even the social skills, right? In order to go through and get through the academic. So you have things like Lexile scores, basic skills in reading that you have to get through so that you could assist, but it's not a damaging assessment, right? It's not the one that pulls your confidence down because you didn't pass. It's individualized. It's by student. It's saying, look, this is where you are, but we want to get you here. It's not saying, oh, sorry, you're not gifted. Oh, sorry, you didn't pass, you can't go on the next grade. Well, darn it, we're going to get you to that next grade because we're going to supply you with the tools. We're going to provide you with the support. We're going to ask you, like, what do you really need to get through these lessons? So as teachers, as educators, as leaders, we need to really encourage that. We need to end these standardized tests of labeling students and where it quantifies them. And, you know, with gifted and talented, they want these numbers. They want these stats because it's tied to funding like in anything else. We don't need that. We need to tell our babies that, you know, that funding, you're more important than the dollar sign that's coming in. You're more important. Right. We need to encourage them and enforce that their minds, their emotional state is beyond what the government is telling us what to do. And that's why this is a serious call to action. That's why eliminating standardized tests, period, is a must, not just this year.
Thank you, Melanie. Let's hear from Dr. Brian Perkins.
Yes, so just one last thing I want to say is this. So in my upcoming manuscript, I start with one statement, and it is this: everything we need to know to improve education for the disadvantaged and historically underserved children in this nation, we know. We don't need another single blue ribbon committee. We don't need to study this anymore. We know that culturally relevant instructional practices, we know that teachers and principals and superintendents that look like the children they serve, we know that family and community outreach, and we also know that treating children not like brains on a stick, but like human beings, all of those things matter. And so we don't have to study this anymore. We have enough examples out there that where people who absolutely ignore test scores, they work on building the human beings. And so that's what we need to get back to. We need to get back to development of human beings, teaching them habits of the mind and habits of the heart. Those are the things that are important as we go forward. And standardized test scores don't pick up on those things.
Yes, exactly.
And so that's what I want us to make sure that as leaders, and so those of you who are out there on the front line, Principal Rod, Rashid, the rest of you, just, you have my best wishes. And I know that it is really tough out there right now. And I want you to know that, you know, people are watching, and what we are doing for our children right now will say who we are as a generation. And so I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity. And the last thing I just want to say, let's keep the momentum going. Let's not stop here. We have more conversations after this that we have to have.
Thank you, Dr. Perkins. Rashid, you want to close us out with any final thoughts?
I mean, Dr. Perkins said it well. The energy on this call, appreciate it. Just really, when we're working with students, that's one thing I always have been pushing our administration at our school. Let's stop teaching towards tests. We need to be exposing students to careers early in middle school, exposing them to their interests, their strengths, so they can begin to learn who they are and understand themselves. So as they go out into high school, look at post-secondary opportunities. College is not the answer. We know that. The reality is, what's the best fit opportunity for them to excel and be successful? That's the empowering part we need to look at. So I think Dr. Perkins said it great. You know, let's keep the momentum up. Let's literally kill the test, and let's put the pressure on the system, because it's not going to concede nothing unless we're consistent.
Thank you, Rashid. I appreciate you sharing that. And you all, it's all about centering students at the middle, in the center of education, in the center of teaching and learning, as opposed to standardized testing. Thanks, everyone, for being a part of this tonight. Shivy, unmute yourself.
There I go. See, look, I did it knowing me. Like I came in just talking and on mute, you know?
Right.
So listen, yo, I just want to say thank you so much to the panel and everybody who tapped in. I mean, I don't even think folks understand the amount of brain wealth there was on that panel just then. I mean, just the intellect. I'm so grateful for you guys. Thank you so much for tapping in. I want to make sure that we close this thing out with something that you know really speaks to our spirit and shows the other facet of us as educators, and that really is the fact that many of us people of color, we come from griot culture, right? It's the griot of the village. That makes, that brings everything to fruition. In the beginning of education, especially for Black people here in America, your preachers were your teachers, right? And there was a spiritual nature of how education works for us. And so I would be remiss if I didn't have my big sis, the Queen Sheba, bless us. And for y'all who don't know, we talk about Grammy nominated, you know what I'm saying? We talk about well activated. Come on, talk about it. Right? Come on, and I mean, this queen has really just been a highlight of my life in sharing my gifts and becoming better at so many things that will prepare me for what I'm, the opportunities I get today. And I'm so grateful for you.
Do they even know you have bars, Shibby? Do they know?
Nah, like rapper Shibby is like. You know what I'm saying? Like far gone. Like they, it is what it is. But those are the facets, and those are the things. Our walks in other lives, or our walks before education, are the things that really help us. Hold on, y'all, because I gotta. My camera is deciding that it's done for the day. Okay, we back in here, but it is our walks in life that help us to be more relatable to our students, that help us to be someone that they kind of see themselves in. And with that said, I wanted for you to share a piece with the people before we close this thing out for the night. So if you will, take flight, Queen. Take flight.
Thank you so much. I am a part-time professor at Clark Atlanta University and right here in Atlanta. And shout out to my dean and my boss, Dr. Georgine Bess, for hiring me. She used to come to the open mics in Atlanta. And when I put in my application, she was like, I know you. And I was like, oh, cool. So with COVID, I've only been there 2 years. And I love teaching poetry, spoken word, short stories, and I have published. I've helped 40 students become published authors because I figured they needed a book if they're going to be learning poetry and short stories. And that's really cool that they allowed me. Well, of course, I made my own curriculum, and they allowed me to help these young students become authors. And I think that was super important. So I am recently Grammy nominated. I have a poem on Robert Glasper's latest album. It's called F Your Feelings, and it's track number 11. So cross your fingers that we win on Sunday, January 31st. All right, cool. So here is a short poem. 100 barefoot men stood in the square and rooted on the man with the machete, the sacrifice, the sufferer, the martyr. Shirtless, cropped pants, hands tied behind his back with twine that looked loose enough to wriggle free if he wanted to, if he tried hard enough, if he would make any effort at all. And a white scarf as a blindfold, the symbol of surrender, of peace, of truth. Impelled to his knees by one hand on his right shoulder, the sacrifice, the sufferer, the martyr made no sound, did not cry out for help, was not begging for forgiveness, no argument, no exchange. This man didn't put up one single protest, or did he? The conjurees were restless, murmuring encouragement, shifting back and forth, marking time with their toes in the mud, nudging each other with their elbows to watch without interruption. The shirtless man on his knees in the middle of this salacious posse softly lifted his head as if in prayer, floating back up after being pushed down by men wearing rifles like a doorman. 3 times his head attempted liftoff, an escape maybe, from this proud body, burdened by religion and optimism. Maybe this was his invocation. Maybe his seraph knew and was preparing to ascend before this subordinate with the machete, dubbed omnipotent, designated decision maker, lifted the blade, double fist between his shoulders, and the sacrifice, the sufferer, the martyr's body was cleanly sliced in 2 and succumbed to the dirt, bouncing once. I believe the earth was trying to throw him back, wasn't ready to receive him. What wasn't ready to receive him hadn't made room for his soul in the soil yet. The horde erupted, not with a cheer, so much as a deliverance of resentment, of intensified pressure, as the slayer pumped the blade in the air once, gripping the handle of his phallus after wiping the blood from the blade on the back of this cherub's clothes and dragging his barren body by one leg across the yard, dropping him on a pile of other men. Thank y'all so much. I am Queen Sheba. Thank you so much, Shivi, for having me. And Teachers for Good Trouble, this is going to be an amazing movement, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
You're on mute, Shivi. It's a Zoom, it's a Zoom, it's a Zoom. You still gotta unmute. You're good.
You can't unmute?
You can't unmute? All right,
I couldn't find it, yo. Like, I'm so mad right now. Look, I could not find it. I was sitting there like, yo, where is the button? Where is the button? I zoomed in or whatever. Look, we good. Look, Sheba, everything that I am, you are a part of by default. What I am, my journey, you have had a huge impact on. I just appreciate you for being an amplifier of my voice and helping me to recognize who I am before I knew who I was. So I am grateful for your light and all of the water and all of the nurture and all of the sunlight that you have poured into me just as a human. I love you very much. And I just want to say thank you for even being a part of this movement and doing this. And I mean, we didn't even speak about your personal struggles and things that you're dealing with, that you're overcoming right now within this moment. So that you would sacrifice right now is just, I couldn't ask anymore. So thank you.
I appreciate y'all so much. Real quickly, what Shivi's talking about is I tested positive for COVID last Wednesday. Although I am an asymptomatic person, which means I have 0 ailments, no cough, no fever, no nothing. And unfortunately, it's the people like me that are spreading this disease. Had it not been for I'm an avid runner, and had it not been for a friend in our running community who just suggested that we all get tested because we run together every day, even though we're outside, I wouldn't have even known. So give thanks to that. So I'm quarantined for the next week or so, but I'm absolutely fine and healthy. I don't have any issues at all. And I'll be back out there soon. But this also goes to the entire discussion of wanting teachers just to go back into the classroom and then infect other teachers and infect the students. And that's not the way to go. So please get tested, especially if you're in Atlanta, Florida, Phoenix, New York, and LA, the hot spots around the country. Please, please, please get tested. Just to get tested, and take care of yourself.
100%. I think everyone should, and I got to be honest. Like, yo, Black folk be kind of afraid to deal with certain medical stuff, right? And so we see them putting the thing up the nose, and we like, I don't know about it. And I'm just keeping it real, right? I'm just keeping it real.
Well, if you go to CPS, you can do it yourself, and nobody has to do it for you.
Yes. And I will say, I went to Centennial Park to get a COVID test before Thanksgiving. I just felt like, if I want to go be around, it was a small group of family members, like small group. But if I'm going to do that, I have a responsibility to make sure, or at least check. And that's not to say you necessarily good, because they say, you could still have it. It's still risk. It's still risk. But I felt like I was doing my due diligence if I were going to get with some family. And when I went to go do it, like, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, right? And so I definitely, and I'm the scaredy cat, right? You pull out a needle, you pull out something going up the nose, I'm running, right? So
Right.
I'm just keeping it a buck, right? All that manly stuff just go right out the window. So
You can get a blood test or the one up your nose, and then the psychological part of it. My partner has cancer, so I can't be there and be an assistance to her. So it's huge. It's huge not to be at home. This where I'm staying is great. It's a wonderful condo in Midtown. A friend of mine happened to be on holiday and was like, "You can go ahead and quarantine over there," but that doesn't help my partner who needs my help at home. The other thing is that my son is a professional basketball player overseas, and he is the one who told me, keep running, keep exercising to keep your lungs strong. Don't let them crystallize. Don't get pneumonia. And he was like, when you feel like it, go out running, keep it, because he's a basketball player, and he was like, I had it for a week. So I think that health, your physical health, your spiritual and mental health, all of that play into it. Because I definitely went down a rabbit hole when I got the test results immediately. I was like, oh, I'm good, because I didn't feel anything. But later that night, when you sit there by yourself and you're like, whoa, this is something that could have taken me out.
Yeah. And it's that there's the emotional aspect to it as well.
Yes.
I talked with some friends who have contracted COVID, and there's that fear of like, is it going to get this bad, or what can happen, or who have I spread to? It's all the things, right? So I appreciate you for your transparency.
I appreciate
about
it.
that because
I've been talking about
we need
it.
to give voice to that.
Yeah, it's hard, and we won't even get into the COVID shaming that's been happening around COVID, and kind of the scarlet letter that's happening, and then I understand people's fear, but they get extreme with it. They're like, oh, I stood next to you 4 months ago, and it's like, it doesn't work like that, it just so. But I just say, be responsible, get tested, and then quarantine if you are feeling sick, so that
100%.
we can help stop the spread of this.
Thank you, Sheba. You're the best.
Thank you all for having me so much. Wish us luck on January 31st for R&B Progressive Album of the Year with Robert Glasper. And thank you so much. And peace to all the educators. I'm doing everything I can behind this keyboard for 2 weeks, and then I'm out in the streets. So hopefully I'll be able to join you next week.
We hope so. I hope to see you in good health, and I hope to see you ready out there to get in some good trouble with us.
You winner!
Yep. All right. So next, we're going to tap in our sister Matea Washington, who is down in Florida, and we got to hear from her baby earlier. That young king who really shared his voice with us, and that was major. But I felt like it would be a disservice if we did not provide voice for a parent to talk about what they're going through and how we're feeling about students being in person or virtual during this time, as well as especially about standardized testing. So, Matea, if you would like to give voice to how you feel about standardized testing during the pandemic, that would be extremely helpful, I think, for us to give voice to that.
Thank you, Shivi, and hey, Rakeem, and everybody. I'm so excited. I'm in tears, been crying the whole time. I think John did amazing. I was really shocked that he was going to do that well. And on top of that, he was like, Mommy, thank you so much for letting me be heard. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like, even though he's my kid, I was like, other kids feel that way. So I can imagine just having him speak and other kids seeing him, how that can resonate with them as well. But I'm just going to speak from the parent aspect, because I deal with that so much with him, and also being an educator. But I just know many parents have even came to me and said, like, test anxiety is so real for their children, like mental health wise. And also too, like the physical, they have a lot of times the symptoms like stomach aches, their refusal to go to school, their sleep disruption. Like a lot of kids can't sleep knowing that the test is about to happen. And also too, it's like, I think a lot of kids cry. Like I remember being in kindergarten teaching and just giving my kids a test that was 1 hour and 45 minutes. And they're crying because it's like, they don't know what to pick half the time. So as a parent, you can only prepare them for so much, I believe. And working with John, it's like I'm burning the candle with 2 sticks because I'm teaching all day, but then I'm going back to try to prepare him for a test, but I'm not there taking the test. And I think that's a lot of parents feel helpless because you can't help your child. You cannot sit there and say like, this is the answer. Or sometimes we don't know as a parent what's going to be on the test. Teachers teach the test, but it's like the standardized tests sometimes go from 1 question to 100 real quick. It's like 0 to 100. And I'm like, he was like, well, mommy, I had multiplication on a test. And I'm like, baby, you're in 1st grade. So the inaccuracy of the levels, and just because he scored high on like certain ones, they will go up higher and higher. And he was like, I felt defeated, mommy. Like, that's all he tells me. Like, the test timed out. And when it's timed like that, just think about how as an adult, when you're put up, like, it's like you're trying to get something done, crunch mode. And just having the kids sitting there like this test is clicking and a time clock is just going the whole time. As a parent, you want to take that emotions and you want to wear that for your kid. So I can't imagine how a child feels sitting in that room, because I know when I feel that way taking tests, I'm like, I do so well talking. I do so well speaking to people, expressing how I feel. But to put it on pen and paper, I struggle as an adult. And I'm taking his, and I'm looking at 2nd grade, and I'm like, he's in 2nd grade. I'm teaching 2nd grade. So when I have a test for him, and I'm like, John, is this right? Like, I'm questioning my kid. Like, these 2 questions sound like they could be right. And we're going back in the text. And I have a full master's degree. And I'm like, these are hard for my baby. Really hard. And I'm stressed out and I'm frustrated. So if I know if I'm frustrated as a parent, I know my child's frustrated.
What would you recommend to other parents right now to be doing?
I would really say, literally, you're enough. That's the thing. Parents need to realize right now that they are enough and be present. You're not going to be perfect. Literally, you're not going to be perfect. You're not a teacher. Even if you think you can be, you can teach certain things, but preparing them and saying this is what you can give them everything. I think literally if parents will sit there and realize, just equip them enough with what they know. Whatever the teacher supplies, if they can look out or reach out to people in community, I really believe that they could be able to focus more on just being there for their kids' life skills, dealing with the trauma, dealing with the social emotional learning aspect of it. Being there for their babies, because they get enough tests at school. Asking them how they're doing, talking to them.
What would you say as because you're an educator as well, right?
Yeah.
And so that's like the double entendre. The comment we just had up said, what did it say, Rock? It said, if you're a parent and a teacher, you're burning the candle at both ends.
On both ends.
To that effect.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, Jaime. Right. So parents that teach are burning the candle at both ends. How is especially preparing a young child on testing and being an educator, right? Like, what is kind of the unique experience of that?
I struggle with that because just recently, me preparing my child for a test, it was the problem. I was trying to teach them test taking skills. And not every parent has the resources to pull from the districts like I do and have the frameworks and so forth, and to have the tests or previous tests and say, oh, this is how the questions are set up. So I do have that benefit, but not all parents have that. So I think teachers also should be intentional when it comes to giving parents preparation materials for stuff like that, especially when it's benchmarks and so forth, even if it's not the exact wording, but finding things that set up the same way so parents can go through and help their child out with test taking skills. Because I thought it was John's problem with the reading and understanding the content, but it was the questions and how they were being asked.
How has this testing been for you in terms of like the pandemic, right? Did you have to send your son to school? Like how has it been during this time period?
During the pandemic, I think it's been harder because my kids were 6 months out of school. And even my son was 6 months out of school. And I have a 3-year-old that was running around the whole time I was teaching Zoom.
Wow.
Literally for 21 some kindergartens on Zoom, and then trying to teach my 3-year-old. Blimpie was teaching him or YouTube. And then I was trying to teach John and work with him. So John was behind and I had mom guilt.
Wow.
That parent guilt is real when your child's struggling and then you're like, your expectations are up here. And COVID, you got to realize and give yourself some grace that it's probably down here right now.
What would you recommend that we do as educators, as parents, to really be effective in changing this forever, so that we don't allow the same issues to stand?
Okay, so you're saying the issues of the standardized testing, Shivy? Like the clarify.
I'm having some connection issues. I want to make sure that I'm not missing what you're asking me. Were you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I heard a little bit. It was lagging at first.
He said pretty much as a parent, what do you think, and as a teacher, what do you think we need to do to get rid of like the standardized testing? Like, so it's like, what do you think we should do moving forward?
I think moving forward, I think that educators with talking to parents and communication should be more than just Remind Dojo or whatnot, or parent-teacher conferences. I think educators need to come together collectively, and like what Shivy and what Teachers for Good Trouble is bringing to the table, and brainstorming things to test these kids on that's effective, because we're taking out of all the social emotional, we're taking out the arts, and we teach social studies, we teach science. Shivy teaches economics, Rakeem, you teach history and so forth. But none of that is nothing's on this emphasis on standardized testing is reading and math. So my thing is, how do we really integrate and cross-curricular our lessons to make it beneficial for our students? Not just saying teaching for the test, but we go in there and we teach all these lessons, but making a test that would really show these kids strengths, because these students are more than just a test score. And that's what people have to realize. They're more than data points. They are way more. They're every day in class. What they do in classroom does not represent the data point or their scale score, their percentile rate.
100%. Anything you want to say to the folks before you go, especially to parents and teachers? Any last messages you want to leave them with, especially with the Teachers for Good Trouble movement in mind? Ways that they can get involved, the reasons they should get involved, and why this is important.
Teachers for Good Trouble, y'all, literally is truly a movement, and it's far bigger than just us. It's far bigger than educators. It's far bigger than state officials and so forth in the government. This is for the babies. Like, literally, how many parents I know out there, millions and billions of people love their kids. So signing this petition, it lets your child's voice be heard. My son was literally in tears saying that what everybody said about him was so inspiring. And as a mother, to hear him say that, knowing that he can have the worst day in school sometimes with testing and so forth, but to him to literally know his worth and feel like, wow, I matter. That means so much more to me as a parent. And to be a part of Teachers for Good Trouble and literally sit there to support and do whatever I can, that makes this worthwhile. It makes my one voice, regardless of what anybody else says. I want you to understand, parents, y'all's voice matter. Do not let anybody pipe you down. Don't let somebody tell you what you say doesn't mean anything or what you think, because your emotions and how you feel and your opinion is valid. And there's people out here that are fighting the same fight you're fighting, but please speak up. Do not be silent during this type of movement. Yes, injustice is going on, and it's always going to go on. Yes, testing is going on, and it's always going to go on. But the thing is, we can make this situation and make this world better. It's about changing the world. It's about making history for our babies. So when one day in history books, they're going to look back and they're going to see Teachers for Good trouble. They're going to see Shivy's name. They're going to see Rakim's name. They're going to see my baby's John's name in there. They're going to see your child's name in there. So I really need y'all to be intentional and don't complain, but be about the work, because it's so important to these kids and it's important to us as educators, and it's also important to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So look, I want to just tell everybody, yo, Matea, first off, thank you so much. Like you are the definition of what this amplification is about, right? Like you had your baby come in, tap in and share, right? And then you came in and gave your voice, not only as a parent, but also as a parent educator. And I think that's very important that because some of us got that little slash on our existence, right? We got that parent educator piece. That's a whole different animal, especially if you somebody like myself. Like if you virtual, you know what I'm saying, you parent educator, that's a whole nother thing. You know what I'm saying? It takes the support of our spouses, of our co-parents, of individuals who are helping to make this thing happen for us. If you're a single parent, that's a whole different energy, right? It's so important for you to have shared your voice, and I'm glad that you came and gave us the additional time, especially into the late hour. We're on East Coast, it's 10:21 right now. For you to have done that, thank you very much. I just want to, real quick before I hand this thing over to Rock to close us out once and for all, I want to say to you all, listen, tomorrow night, if you are not on the Clubhouse app, go ahead and get it. It is a iOS only thing, but we have an interview on 107.9, which is the biggest hip hop station out here in Atlanta. And we're going to be doing that interview on Clubhouse, right? So this is like something that really doesn't even happen, right? So we're about to basically have a open forum discussion with Hot 107.9. Shout out to my sister, Kay Simone, who gave us this opportunity. And we're going to be talking about Teachers for Good Trouble on Clubhouse. Clubhouse is a very, very dope forum and format and where people can have conversations. It's all audio. And we're going to really be diving into like, what is this movement all about? Why are we doing this? What is the call to action? And so I encourage you all to be ready to tap in on that. That is going to happen at 7:30 p.m. tomorrow. 7:30 p.m. tomorrow on Clubhouse. If you go in Clubhouse right now and click on events, you will see Teachers for Good Trouble at Hot 107.9, right? You'll see it ready for you to tap into. So I look forward to continuing this conversation there with you all. And let's continue to get into this good trouble. Rock, you want to go ahead and take it away, bro?
Yeah, that was amazing. I just want to just celebrate everyone who came, who's a panelist, all of you on YouTube out there. You are amazing, right? To close us out, I just want to like really just remember why we're here, right? And remember your why, right? If you can just drop like why are you here? Why do you do this work? Why you're an educator? Why you're a teacher? Why you're a parent? Why you're an ally? Why you're a co-conspirator, right? Because that's important. That is the thing that's gonna get us past the way, right? When I talk to my students and I talk to folks that are like, hey, if I can be in any part in history, I'll be in the civil rights movement. I'll be in the Black Power movement. I'll go march with King. I'll go march with these folks. It was like, well, you're here now, right? We're here now, right? So if you can just drop your why, right? If you can drop your why in the YouTube and just so everyone know why you came out, right? What is your why, right? My why is every time when I go teaching, my why is my students, right? My why is the families that I serve. My why is the community, right? I did not start teaching to teach to a test. I did not become a teacher to die to give a test, right? Families, you do not send your students to school for a test, right? So it's like, what is your why, right? And I think we have to we are a village, y'all. We are a community. And many hands make light work. Many hands make light work. So we need you to go and sign that petition. Go sign in from a different email and sign it again, right? I have 3 emails. I signed it 3 times, right? And then share it to 5 people, right? 100,000, 1 million, 10 million, right? We need this petition going, right? Another way you can get into good trouble, right? Buy the merch, right? The Teachers for Good Trouble. Every purchase you make, go towards a teacher who may lose, not even like lose their job, but lose pay on that day, right? We really need to commit to an economic safety belt for teachers to really move, right? I see some folks at Education for Liberation, right? Yes, come on. Like, we need you to sign a petition at teachersforgoodtrouble.org, right? Keep on putting your why in YouTube, because that's the energy, that's the collective energy that's going to take us on our way. Education is power. Yes, 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 right? Our schools deserve more. Our families deserve more. We deserve more, right? We are 30.7 million teachers. That is it. 3.7 million teachers. 37 million teachers throughout the world, right? Future generations, the culture, my baby blessings. These are our why, right? And these are the whys that should take you to the rally. So if you haven't right now, go to teachersforgoodtrouble.org. Go to a rally in your place. I know we're having one down in New York, right? Atlanta, Cali, all these places. I need you to sign up. There's even, when I was on Clubhouse the other day, they said, we're gonna join you in the UK. I was like, come on. My why is my current students and my future children. Keep on coming, right? This is the energy that we need. This is the energy, y'all. Many hands make light work. Individual work is community work, and community work is individual work. Our kids deserve more. Come on, right? What is your why? For those educators and students who be lost to COVID, right? To be the change I want to see. The school system is archaic and outdated. It's time to change the broken, decadent system. That's correct. Our children are genius, period. I want to pay forward all of the gifts that were given to me. We all have gifts. We all have seeds. We all can plant, y'all. We have to be planters. Everything that you do in the movement is a seed to keep our children out of prison. We know that the 4th grade standardized test scores, right, are taken and they're calculated, and students are fail that test. They're saying, how many prisons do we have to build? We're stopping the cradle to prison highway. We're shutting it down. This is all in the movement. We need y'all. We need everybody here. If you shared it 5 times, I need you to share it 10 times. And I need you to go with your why. Your why is essential. Your why is your calling. To show Black boys they don't have to rap or hoop to be cool and successful. Come on. All kids are gifted and talented. You don't just have to be gifted, right? I got a jump shot, but come on. Every book right here, it feeds me, right? Come on, what is your why? Come on, drop them, put them down, put them in YouTube, read them out. And that's the thing, that's the energy. Without y'all, right, Ubuntu, I am because we are. To educate, to inspire, to motivate, to make a difference, to grow little people, all power to the little people. Come on, y'all. This is why we do it. If you haven't purchased merch, if you haven't done anything in, like right now, I need you to purchase the merch, right? Help an educator out. I need you to amplify this. I need you to go to teachersforgoodtrouble.org. I need you to sign that petition. I need you to meet us on Clubhouse tomorrow. If you don't have a Clubhouse, sign up right now. If someone of you has you as a friend, they can call you in. We need you. We need you. We need you. The community is my why. The community is my why. The community is my why. We have to be able to see the impossible, right? My why, the future, the truth, to protect, to serve, and why not? If not you, then who? Right? We have to be the last generation. The last generation. The last. It stops here. Cancel the test. It stops with us. I'm a history teacher, right? I want to be teaching 50 years down the line. When we open up a history book, it said 2020 is the year that folks created good trouble, and we stopped it. Not just as individuals, as the village. It takes the village. It takes the community. It takes all of us, right? It takes all of us. Shout out to all those folks who's been doing work behind the scenes, right? Shout out to the names who don't get named. Shout out to everyone. Shout out to our future. To disrupt and to dismantle the system, y'all. Come on, that's your why. Lead with that. For the future. We have to be able to freedom dream. Remember, the society we have now is someone's dream. This was someone's dream, y'all. You are someone's dream. You're literally sitting here. You're someone's dream. Why not dream a dream for someone else who's coming behind you? Why not?
That's what our ancestors did. Harriet Tubman, when she was on the Underground Railroad, she knew. She carried a shotgun, not because she wanted to hurt anyone, but because she knew that if anyone turned back, it would really, literally compromise the whole system. All, right, Dr. Asa Hitler and all of my education heroes who paved the way for me. If we turn back now, we can't turn back. Our future is counting on it. We have to do more than survive. We have to learn how to thrive. We have to create a community for our kids that really matters. What's your why? And I want you to show it with that every day. I want you to show it on the rallies. I want you to carry your why. I want you to buy your merch, come in and with your why, right? Thank y'all. Sign a petition. Buy the merch. Show up to the rallies. December 15th is the day that we say no. We cancel the test. No more standardized testing, y'all. We cancel it. What we do today will have ripple effects in society. Thank y'all. Thank you to the community. Thank you all. Let's continue to get in some good trouble.
Yo, bro, you just bodied it. Yo, Rakim, I am so honored to be able to share this evening with you in hosting this event. This is our very first, you know what I'm saying, Teacher Talk Live X Teachers for Good Trouble situation, and I think it's going to be the first of very many, because the synergy and the energy and what we have done tonight is palatable. Yo, I want to say thank you to everybody who signed on. I want to say thank you to everybody who shared it. I want to say thank you to everybody who was screenshotting what was going on, recording it, sharing it on IG stories, you know what I'm saying? Like putting it out there for everybody to see. Y'all, we are on the midst of making history today. Very much like Rakim said, like this right now is like what you was going to do in the 60s, you're doing it right now. What you was going to do in the 50s, you're doing it right now. What you was going to do back in the day, you doing it right now. Like this is your truth right now. And the thing that we have to do is reach out and go get some more.
Yeah.
We got to reach out and amplify. We got to reach out and make this thing bigger than it was. If you know someone in news, get them to tap in with us so that we can share this story. If you know somebody at a newspaper, get them to tap in with us so we can share this story. If you know somebody who is a influencer on social media, get them to tap in with us and help to amplify this thing. We need amplification. We are telling the right story. The story just needs to be heard. It just needs to be heard. And so I want to say thank you so much to everybody who has been a part of this from the beginning. I want to say thank you to everybody who's going to continue to be a part of this movement. Y'all, we are on the brink of writing history today. And I'm so grateful for your presence. I'm so grateful that you would support. I'm so grateful that you would give us your time tonight. I look forward to seeing you guys real soon. We will see you on Clubhouse tomorrow night. Maybe even we go live after that on IG for those who don't have Clubhouse. But we're going to keep this thing going, and we will win the day. We will liberate our babies. We will get freedom in education. Death to the test. Cancel the test. Standardized testing is a thing of yesteryear. We will not let it stand anymore. We'll see y'all on the other side. Thank you very much. Let's keep making history. Yes.